Hello and welcome to News Morning here on New Day on TV3. My name is TV3 Newday, coming up in the next few minutes. Special Prosecutor Kisia Jabin says personal dislike, not non-performance, is reason for attacks against the office as he vows renewed fight against corruption. Also on the program this morning, Ashanti Regional MTTD intercepts nearly 2,000 vehicles as it cracks down on unauthorized sirens and strobe lights. And much later on the program, 7 years after Act 999 came into force, political vigilantism persists, raising first questions about the law's impact and enforcement. My name is TV3 Newday. Thank you very much for joining us on the program this morning. Now, 7 years ago, Ghana took a major step to tackle one of the biggest threats to its democracy, political vigilantism. The Vigilantism and Related Offences Act 2019, also known as Act 999, was passed on August 23, 2019 to disband political vigilante groups and criminalize their activities. But 7 years on, the question remains: is the law working? Evelyn Tingma explores it in this report.
For years, political vigilantism has been part of the country's political history. The two main political parties, the NPP and NDC, have both been associated with groups accused of providing party security, intimidation, and, in some cases, violence, from the Azoka Boys and Invincible Forces to the Delta Forces and Bogatanga Bulldogs. In 2017, members of the Delta Force stormed the Ashanti Regional Coordinating Council and forcibly removed the Regional Security Coordinator. In another incident, some members invaded a Kumasi court in an attempt to free colleagues standing trial. Then came the Ayawaso West Wagon by-election violence on January 31, 2019, which triggered a commission of inquiry. Months later, Parliament passed the Vigilantism and Related Offences Act 2019, Act 999, prohibiting political parties from maintaining private armies and using political violence to influence elections. But the violence did not end. During the 2020 elections, security authorities recorded 61 electoral and post-electoral incidents, including 21 classified as electoral violence. Post-election violence in Techiman South, for instance, resulted in the loss of 8 lives and left many others injured. The 2024 elections also recorded serious incidents. CDD Ghana reported 76 election-related incidents, including the destruction of public facilities, injuries, and 6 deaths. And during the 2025 Ablekuma North parliamentary rerun, disturbances at polling stations reportedly led to assaults on journalists, voters, and a former MP. So how effective has Act 999 been? The National Security Coordinator, COP Abdul Osman Razak, admitted that some groups are changing names and operating through less visible networks, including social media and encrypted messaging platforms. The National Peace Council says it continues to engage political parties through a quarterly trust-building platform to address emerging threats. But former National Security Minister Albert Kandapa has described Act 999 as an emotional political response to the Ayawaso West Wagon violence.
We were not trying to stop the supply of vigilante groups. We were trying to stop, or we should have been trying to stop, the demand for vigilantes and vigilante groups. The demand was coming from the two major political parties. You can only stop vigilantism if you stop them, if you make it impossible for them.
Former National Security Minister Francis Poku has similarly called it a knee-jerk reaction.
There are other laws, Act 350, law establishing the police, to able to exploit, and they could have been used to resolve the problem that the Act sought to address.
Security analyst Colonel Retired Festus Abuaji and KNUST academic professor George Bob Miller have also argued that political parties have been reluctant to fully enforce the law.
Enforcement has been zero, including from the apex of power, which takes a Commission of Inquiry's report and ravishes it.
So should Act 999 be scrapped?
If you read the substance of the act, it has nothing to do with vigilantes. Can you scientifically today with data collection and intelligence tell us how effectively that progresses in banning vigilantism?
I can understand the sentiments that it's probably the Act 999 has failed to provide any clear answers. But I also believe that a law that exists can be improved to serve the purpose of society.
All right. Should the law be thrown away? No, I don't believe it should be thrown away. I think I agree with Honorable Tutubi Kwachi when he says that it can be there. It can serve a purpose. But let us have a way of addressing some related issues.
Meanwhile, Director of Operations of the Ghana Police Service, COP Emmanuel Teikujo, said progress has been made in using Act 999 as a legal and operational framework.
It's progress and not perfection. It was the last election at Efijaseche. We were able to respond expeditiously to the threat on the ground. So for us, we are creating operational units that are specialized to deal with this violent extremism.
The choice, therefore, may not be between keeping or scrapping Act 999. The real question may be whether Ghana can strengthen the law, close its loopholes, and enforce it without fear or favor. Evelyn Tegma, TV3 News, Accra.
Indeed, now the Special Prosecutor, Kisie Jabin, says attacks against the office and the quest to have it dissolved stem from a personal dislike of him and are not the result of non-performance. In a fiery news conference following the Supreme Court judgment and parliamentary motions which sought to redefine its independence and prosecutorial powers, the Special Prosecutor said the office has been reborn and will leave no stone unturned in the fight against corruption. Mawina Egbeta reports.
In the last few months, pressure has been brought to bear on the office of the Special Prosecutor. From a motion later withdrawn to dissolve the office completely in Parliament, to petition seeking the removal of the Special Prosecutor, and legal suits challenging the independence and prosecutorial powers of the office, the OSP says its activities and its fight against corruption has suffered. In a major first response, Kisie Jabin told journalists that the attacks against the office were vowed personal attacks against him.
I state with extreme reluctance that some of the attacks intended at abolishing the OSP or dimming its light stem from personal dislike against the occupant of the seat of the Special Prosecutor and the operational directors. The evidence has not shown that these unliked persons, including me, engage in obnoxious or untoward conduct. On the contrary, it is a case of simply a preference for other persons to me and the operational directors.
On the controversy surrounding the challenge to its independence and prosecutorial powers, Kisie Jabin said intelligence, which was later substantiated, showed that the Attorney General had no intention of challenging the suit before the Supreme Court. For the OSP, that decision by the Apex Court has given the office a new lease of life.
The Supreme Court decision should be celebrated. It has set matters clear as to the functions and operations of the OSP and the coexistent relationship between the Attorney General and the OSP. It has greatly strengthened the fight against corruption, and it is upon the decision of the Supreme Court that I declare a rebirth of the OSP. We will show no fear or favor. We will remain resolute in the lawful discharge of our mandate. We will rigorously investigate cases. We will vigorously prosecute cases where the evidence indicates wrongdoing. We will actively recover assets. We will take all necessary steps to prevent corruption. This is our mandate.
Turning to the AXA energy bribery deal, The OSP named former Power Minister Dr. Kwabena Donkor and 4 others as persons of interest in Ghana's investigations into the matter. For the office, suggestions by persons in authority that it does not have the requisite competence to investigate the matter lack a sound logical basis.
We have heard talk, and from official sources, that the OSP should not be the institution investigating the matter, and that the OSP lacks the capability and track record to investigate the matter. This begs the obvious. The institution, which provided significant assistance to the successful prosecution of Beko in the United States, rather lacks the capability and track record to investigate the Ghana dimension, and that other institutions, which were not even involved in the matter, are more competent than the OSP. Once again,
Ghanaians have been promised a revived fight against corruption, one that will actively be monitored.
Some more here, and Ghana's local governance system is once again under scrutiny, with calls for reforms to make decentralization more inclusive and accountable. At the Institute for Democratic Governance Citizens Forum in Accra, civil society organizations and policy experts challenged proposals on the election of MMDCEs, women's representation and citizen participation in local government elections. Nura Mohammed has more in this report.
For more than 2 decades, there have been calls for the direct election of metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives, MMDCEs. But under the government's proposed 2026 position, the president would nominate at least 5 candidates, with 3 vetted nominees eventually contesting a public election. Participants at the forum say the proposal could still leave room for presidential influence over who gets to contest, limiting genuine local accountability. Professor Joseph Achu-Aye stressed the need to reform decentralization to deepen autonomy, accountability and responsiveness in Ghana.
Decentralization is work in progress, and we think that it holds the key to the development of the country. It can provide inclusiveness, it can provide development, participation, and of course, checking the rural-urban drift. But more importantly, it gives the key for stable government in the country. Whether we like it or not, political transitions will come and go, but the people of Ghana are more important than governments.
The debate also turned to women's representation in local government. In the 2023 District Assembly elections, women won just 4.1% of the elected seats, translating to only 269 out of more than 6,000.
Government came up with a position that, we want to elect our MMDCEs, but then we want to nominate them, and they were trying to be very inclusive by saying we want to nominate at least 2 women. Out of the 2 women, 1 should be shortlisted, and then they are voted for. The argument is that we have an affirmative action law, which gives targets and says that don't have less than 30% of women in decision making. Why doesn't the Constitutional Review Committee or government's position be that we shouldn't have less than 1/3 of the composition being of a gender? So that means maybe at least 1/3 of the composition should be either male or female. When you put in a gender neutral quota like that, we are saying that then now if government decides that even though we will elect, we'll still appoint, the appointments will make sure that we meet that 30% quota we have in the constitution. And that's what other African countries like Rwanda and Sierra Leone are doing.
And while national elections regularly attract high voter turnout, participation in district assembly elections has remained below 40%. Civil society groups say while Ghana may have strong laws on paper, implementation remains a huge challenge. Without adequate funding, inclusion and political commitment, decentralization will remain largely unfinished. Nura Mohammed, TV3 News, Accra.
In other news, President John Mahama has assented to 10 bills into law as a part of ongoing legislative and policy reforms by his administration. The new laws were signed following their passage by Parliament over the past month. Now, the bills cover areas including taxation, customs, energy, cocoa, maritime offences, national defence and the administration of justice. The legislation signed by the President includes Customs Bill 2026, Community Service Bill 2026, Tribunal Bills 2026, Maritime and Related Offences Bill 2026, National Defense University Bill, also 2026, Income Tax Amendment Bill 2026, Energy Sector Levies Amendment Bill 2026, Ghana Cocoa Board Bill 2026, Value Added Amendment Bill, and Excise Bill 2026. The laws introduce or amend provisions across key sectors of the economy and public administration.
Prisoners, a lot of prisoners for stealing goods or for... It's an act to provide for non-custodial sentences for misdemeanors and other such minor offenses. So instead of putting people in jail and government going to have to pay for looking after prisoners, a lot of prisoners for stealing goods or for committing some very minor offenses, they can be sentenced to do community service for the period that they are convicted for. So there's the Community Services Act.
Now, the National Council of Parent-Teacher Associations has issued a 7-day ultimatum to the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, to provide clear public explanation of the 2026 Basic Education Certificate Examination grading process. Now, General Secretary of the Association, Raphael Kofi Gapson, made this call during a press briefing in Accra. The latest demand adds to growing calls for an independent review of the collation process.
NCPTA calls for a technical review of the 26 BEC assessment and resource processing process involving qualified independent assessment experts and appropriate stakeholders. The review should examine marking and moderation, scoring processes, grade conversion, standardization, unusual patterns and anomalies, school-level performance patterns, and the integrity of the electronic processing system. Our objective is not to undermine WAEC. Our objective is to strengthen public confidence in WAEC. Full explanation of the grading system. WAEC should provide a clear, accessible explanation of the grading system used for the 2026 BEC. Parents and schools should be shown how raw marks are treated, how grades are derived, how standardization operates, how the final grade is determined, worked examples of them, and why mock or school-based percentages may not correspond directly with final examination grades. NCPTA therefore calls for the following actions: clear public explanations of the 2026 BEC grading process, WAEC, within the next 7 days. Clear timelines for outstanding BEC investigations, WAEC, immediate.
And that's all for News Morning here on New Day on TV3. My name is Beatrice Sedu. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Do continue with us on New Day.
Hello, my name is Pamela from Customer Service. Please revalidate your account by texting your Ghana card number to 0500,000 247.
Hey, Abili, wabedim.
Madam, give me the numbers behind your ATM card. I'm calling from the head office.
An email was delivered across to our customers this morning.
Confirm if this is your bank account. 1001.
Charlie. Don't worry, this is pension dance. When you are pension age, you dance like this. Ekufado style. JM style. If so, you go to take on 111. Charlie, keep the song. Charlie, let me say good morning to a great lady of mine. She's going for the women's organizer position for the NDC in the Central Tone constituency. Yvette Emefagbeve, great lady. She doesn't like talking too much. She's an action woman. Charlie, for all those delegates, please vote for her. And then also Boacheja, who presented his nomination forms filed, yesterday as well. Mustafa Hamid, great one. Let's say good morning to you, Dr. Nana. Say Edichum, great man, former Minister for Education. And then also the current Deputy Director for the Free SHS Secretariat as well as the School Placement Secretariat, Dr. Glover. Good morning to you. You're one of the best when it comes to managing the placement as well. And Dr. Glover, currently also Deputy Boss when it comes to the Free SHS Secretariat. So, Belinda, good morning to you, and keep doing the great work. I'll visit you one of these days. But for everything that we have to do, we always bring you great shows as well. I have my distinguished ambassadors. So, ambassador of Ghana to the UK in the public domain, Beamfest, GMB. Good morning to you, darling. How are you? You shock yourself. We cannot pay your bio. How are you? You be Ghana Oprah Winfrey. Nobody. And then, Charlie, how are you? How are you? Just give Cookie this thing, let me see. Fantastic. And then that's Ghana's equivalent of Angela Bassett. Please put it. Fantastic. Just look at British style. This one is coming. Which designer is this?
This is Pamoni GH.
Who?
Pamoni.
Yeah.
Pamoni clothing.
I told you guys.
And
That we're ready.
Surprise.
You told us who?
Ladies, what's trending? I saw the president signing off bills into act yesterday. Tribunal bill, everything else. Which of them?
He signed 10 of them.
First of all, apart from all the people that you have greeted, there are millions watching us this morning. Can we say good morning to them and appreciate all of them, including those watching on Facebook and elsewhere in the world? A very, very warm welcome to TV3 Newday. The list is endless. It's millions of you. We cannot simply just start mentioning names, but he has started already. If you haven't heard your name, it's not deliberate at all. It's all love from us to you. A special good morning to you.
That's why I need Cookie. That's why I need Cookie in my life.
Standing on all existing protocols. And I know the week is going to end fantastically for you because it's end of month. The alerts are going to be hitting your
today
phones.
is the end of month.
No, but Monday is 31st.
No, yeah, but remember before Monday.
Okay.
Our employees are not that wicked. No. They know the drill. Because it's this weekend that it has to weekend, you understand? So yes, alerts will be coming through your phones. I'm sure some of you have even received your alert already, but yes, when it comes to Sudin,
and yes, 15th.
The cameraman is saying
vim. You know what? Because I mentioned Yvette Emefagbeve of Central Tone going for women's organizer, people are sending me theirs.
In actual sense, yesterday,
I've seen somebody from Adenta Kumis camp also sending me theirs.
Yes.
Philip Abochi in Keta is also sending me one.
Yesterday.
Dallas Ampoma is also sending me one.
Yesterday when you finished.
And Cookie, Dallas, who works with the National Insurance Identification Authority, says you're looking
Thank you, Dallas. Thank you.
But wait, two more.
Okay.
Alhaji Jibril of National Security, good morning to you. Salifu Combat, you're the Director, National Health Insurance Authority, good morning. And then, of course, Edmond Combat, lawyer, Managing Director, Tema Oil Refinery. That's where Dujitamaklo is with us. So we're not going to mention his name, bro. Rana, what did they do? Make people talk.
Special good morning also to Rashid Adams Amadou. He is vying for Vice Chairman position for the Hohoi constituency. Please vote for Rashid Adams Amadou. You already know him. He's a man for the streets. He understands the business. Make sure that you vote for him. Ever since you made that announcement yesterday, they keep bombarding us.
Me too.
Exactly.
Anyway.
So please vote for them.
What do we have on the line?
A lot of things this morning. Already, we are told that the president has assented to 10 out of 12 bills, and those bills include the Customs Bill 2026, Community Service Bill 2026, Tribunal Bill, Maritime and Related Offences Bill, National Defence University Bill as well. And then number 6, we've got the Intax Account Amendment Bill. Number 7 is the Energy Sector Levies Amendment Bill. Number 8, Ghana Cocoa Board Bill, which I think we should concentrate on a little bit this morning. And then the Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2026. And the last one is the Excise Bill 2026. 2 of them left out, though. You know, the Family Values Bill is still pending.
Yes.
And then the Ghana, the name has changed to an authority. It was Ghana Promotions.
Ghana Investment Promotion Authority.
Exactly. So the center is becoming an authority now. That one is also pending. So we'll be taking a look at some of the bills this morning, but I think our concentration will be that of our cocoa farmers. And according to the president yesterday, in his own words, promise made, promise delivered. And this should make a lot of our cocoa farmers extremely happy as they get 70% of the world market price, and also 50% of our cocoa must be processed here in Ghana before it's exported elsewhere into the world. So we'll be talking about that extensively this morning. But what else are we discussing?
Indeed, we will also be looking at the AXA energy issue. Yesterday, we heard the special prosecutor in his press conference naming names, as it were, and saying that those individuals were the main focus. It didn't mean that they were already...
Persons of interest.
Persons of interest, yes.
Yeah.
It didn't mean that they were already guilty.
Suspects,
but,
yes,
those were the individuals that this office was looking at. And also, he talked about the collaboration that he's had with agencies and, of course, announcing the rebirth of his own office, saying that in the last 5 years, he believes that the office has done massive work, although people will not give the office and himself credit. He thinks that they've done a great job. So we'll be looking at that as well, and really what's the way forward? What is next after the names have been mentioned?
But some persons have had concerns about the names that have been mentioned, and one of such people is Honorable K.T. Hammond, who is a lawyer for one of the persons who's been mentioned. Yes, and he says that, listen, this public show of always doing press conferences and mentioning names out of the blue must be stopped, because you don't even speak to the people, the OSP, I mean. You don't engage the people, you don't speak to them, you don't speak to their lawyers to even let them know that you are persons of interest in this matter that we are investigating. And then out of the blue, somewhere on social media, somewhere on our news networks, you get to hear your name, and then it causes fear and panic, because already we would interpret it as you're already guilty or you're a suspect. But you being a person of interest is far different from being a suspect or convicted in an investigative case.
And I think yesterday,
like
Kisi Ajabi made that clear. He said that being a person of interest and being a suspect are two different things.
But you see, hearing your name out of the blue also on the news, I don't think that it augurs well for our democracy. At least, let's engage the people who are persons of interest. Let them know that, okay, this and this is what it is, so that just in case you hear your name, it does not come to you as a shock. And I think the OSP must really consider that. I'm not sure what premise it is on which he stands to do these things all the time. I don't know if it's part of the modus operandi of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, but I think if you ask me, K.T. Hammond has a point.
Well, I want to believe that in the next few days, perhaps we'll be hearing representatives for the individuals he mentioned as well, because it wasn't just the Kwabena Donko. 4 others were equally mentioned. And if you look at actually the judgment of the court in the US, they mentioned those various institutions. So the special prosecutor seemed to have just put names to the offices, as it were. So we'll be looking at that. And of course, yesterday there was also a ministerial reshuffle. We saw that on the page of the presidential spokesperson, Felix Kwachu-Fuso, on his Facebook account. The employment minister, Rashid Purple, has been moved. He's now going to be
Minister
in charge
of State for Special Initiatives.
Exactly. And Deputy Defense Minister has also been reassigned as well.
Presidential Advisor on National Resilience and Emergency Preparedness.
So we'll be looking at how this would as it were, inform what it means really for the Mahama administration moving forward. So, of course, we'll be looking into all of these things, plus sports. And also yesterday, there was this news item that came out about digitalizing our traffic system, so that if we see an offense, it doesn't have to be a police officer, you know, standing there to judge. Everything will be recorded digitally, and then you go to defend yourself. So we'll be looking at that as well, and also bring you the latest in the world of sports.
I think I particularly love the lineup. And so apart from sports also, we'll dedicate some time for you, bring you the latest updates on all issues as well. And then also celebrate those who will be marking their birthdays today. Now, for all the relevant things we're doing today, please, let's quickly look at the provisions in the Now Act, because the bill has now been passed, and that's the new reform made to the cocoa bill as well, and we'll be discussing that next as well. We'll take a critical look at that. It's been up for discussions on big issues as well. We've had interactions from Ghana Cocoa Board, led by its chief executive, with some key stakeholders, but been some major agreements. And so we'll take a look at some of these new provisions, and then we'll do all that up next.
Yes.
Stay with us, we'll be right back.
The first is the Customs Act 2026. This voluminous document, Customs Act 2026. It incorporates all the amendments that have been done over the years into one single document. And so it codifies all the customs acts into this document. It makes it simpler to administer, and it will make it more efficient, and it will seal the loopholes that have made government lose a lot of revenue as a result of this. The Community Service Act. This is an act to provide for non-custodial service sentences for misdemeanors and other such minor offenses. So instead of putting people in jail and government going to have to pay for looking after prisoners, a lot of prisoners, for stealing goods or for committing some very minor offenses, they can be sentenced to do community service for the period that they are convicted for. So there's the Community Services Act.
And that was the president on the 10 bills that he assented into acts. Acts assented into
into
bills.
law.
Yes, into law. I'm getting them confused this morning. But yes, Roland is by the dashboard to talk about especially one of them, which is of importance to all of us this morning, because yes, Ghana is one of the biggest exporters of cocoa into the rest of the world. What do you have on the dashboard?
Well, so we just want to go through some of the key reforms and give viewers an overview, and then also get to find a certain perspective as to what really the concerns are from stakeholders. Because you take a look at what the overview is, there's a minimum of 70% of the gross FOB price that the bill has now made provision for. And this is the act now, to be more appropriate by way of the lexicon. So for farmers, they will be paid, according to this new law, 70% of the FOB price. And just to juxtapose that with what happened from, I believe, the last quarter of last year, when we had the price on the international market plummeting, and subsequently farmers not getting their due, and Cocoa Board also making that decision to reduce the amount they'll be paying per bag to the cocoa farmers right here in Ghana. And then also, as one of two leading cocoa producing countries, that will be alongside Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire also reducing even further than ours. This brings at least some level of trust and then also comfort for the farmers. However, this also means that if the price changes within the course of the season on the market, you are going to get 70%. So if it was at 100 Ghana cedis or $100 you were getting, or you're supposed to get, once it changes, you're going to get 70% of that FOB price as is related to the international market as well. And then for this bill, there's also a provision made where at least we're going to have for 50% of Ghana's cocoa beans being processed locally. And these are some of the new reforms. You listen and then interact with the Ghana Cocoa Board. They will tell you these were arrived at, have always been on the table, but then firmed up following extensive stakeholder engagement, both at the policy level and then those who tend to be in academia and civil society, as well as the international level as well. And farmers
processing at least 50% of our beans being processed
already. There's a component that is processed, particularly for entities that are involved in free zones.
Yes.
And if you look at the Free Zones Act, it also is giving every indication that at least 70% of the produce, or if not about 80%, has to go international by way of the market. If you want to sell the rest here, you need to get a special permits from the Ministry of Finance, the GRA as well, to be able to do that. Even then, the price doesn't get reduced. It also gets sold based on competitive pricing.
And you know, it is also coming at a time. Yesterday, there was a directive from the Gold Board that we should, to the effect that we shouldn't be exporting raw gold, as it were.
It should be refined as well.
It should be refined, yes. So it's for me, it presupposes that we're taking the processing of our products locally very seriously, just so we're able to get a lot more value and, of course, much more money.
I agree in total. And so farmers also then will receive some 500-meter protection from mining and other environmentally disruptive activities. And this also, based on what the provisions are in the bill, enjoins cocoa farmers not to be in a position where they could just give out their lands without express.
Yes.
And so it also means that if somebody is interested in their cocoa farms, then it also gives them some level of protection. Because right now, because the galamseyers, or those who tend to do small-scale mining, have money, they just bulldoze their way into the cocoa farms, pay them huge monies they haven't seen before in their lifetime, and then they take over the farms and then start digging illegally. And so this also gives some level of protection for the farmers. But the provision then also means that when it comes to debt in the sector, they must be separated from Cocoa Board's current operational finances. And I tell you that when you read provisions of this bill, Cocoa Board has made sure that they are reducing what the administrative expenses will be for the year, as well as compensation. So their wages, salaries, and others as well, because they have over 1,800 workers, as well as other dependents and assigns who work for them. And so that's a good thing for the farmers as well. Cocoa farmers and then the cocoa farms then will be registered under what they call a cocoa management system. And all this is provided in the bill. And the bill has enabled Cocoa Board to put together a digital system that is going to track cocoa and farm inputs from the farm through purchasing, transportation, and then processing, and ultimately to export destinations. And so you have all these within the value chain that has been put together, and the reforms per what the argument has been and what also the memorandum in itself does indicate is going to enable farmers have a pension scheme established for cocoa farmers. And so then the cocoa farmers wouldn't have to worry that they've tilled the land, they've cultivated cocoa all this while, and after 10, 20, 50 years of having your farm, you're not going to get anything at all. And so you're going to have a pension. A pension company then must obtain a Cocoa Board license before purchasing, aggregating, warehousing, transporting, in fact, doing everything within the value chain to be able to operate. And then also Cocoa Board then, based on this act, has the power to suspend a license due to breaches, due to the inability to pay charges, or if the purchasing entity is insolvent or is in non-compliance alongside other breaches as well. And then Cocoa Board also is indicated according to this bill, you must maintain a register showing license holders, license categories, and then the duration for which they've been in business, and how much or how long you can hold that license. So, and all this Cocoa Board is supposed to provide. And for these changes, of course, we've had some concerns being raised by the opposition MPP, particularly, as well as other stakeholders, even though the argument has been made by Cocoa Board that all stakeholders have been consulted. Now, authorized Cocoa Board inspectors may then enter buying centers, warehouses, storages, processing plants, vehicles, vessels, and other premises used for cocoa-related activities for inspections. And when they get there, they also will be demanding your licenses and permits you have, and then they also get to inspect cocoa farms as well. And then one of the key things which is not available in the present day is that you're going to have a security person, mainly a personnel from the Ghana Police Service, accompanying a Cocoa Board inspector, and they then will go through the stop and search of the vehicle or the vessel or any means of transportation for cocoa. And this could be done without a warrant, where there are reasonable grounds to suspect that maybe some illegalities being undertaken, smuggling, etc. And so the bill really provides a lot of provisions for many in the sector as well. But we have to do the mainstream discussion just to make sure we don't take time off for many of the things that have been reported as well. I think one of the key things that beyond the restructuring is the fact that it will be an offense to obstruct a lawful inspection, or if you refuse entry, you also get to conceal evidence. And Beatrice and Cookie, you find that right now the farmers have, especially those who have large acreages, but they are located in mining areas, are mining in the center. They've allowed people to mine in the center of the farms, so you will not get to know. And if you want to come in, you could be harmed, etc. Yes. But this law then gives Cocoa Board and it assigns the permit to be able to do that. And they're going to do that comprehensively.
And I'm told it's a 20-year imprisonment if you're found guilty.
Yes, for if you're liable, and then the sentencing, that's the range as well.
20 years.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Indeed.
Roland, thank you for the updates this morning. But of course, we need to put matters into proper perspective this morning. And we do have an economist and policy analyst right here on the telephone lines with us, Dr. Samuel Afriyie. Dr. Afriyie, if you can hear us, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning to you. Hello, Doc.
Okay. It looks like we'll have to correct the line to Doc, but a number of you have sent in your messages already, so we can bring some of them to you. This is from Idi Amin, our former colleague here.
Okay.
A media general says, good morning, Beatrice. You're looking good as always. Thank you. Greet Roland and Cookie for me. They have heard you, Idi Amin. There's also a message coming in from Mr. Simon Yenwa. Says, good morning, Beatrice, Cookie and Roland. I don't actually understand why this family values bill is posing passage challenges, even for after being a main campaign promised by the current government. Even the religious leaders are quiet. Is this or is there something that we, the public, need to know? And that's coming from Simon Yenwa in the Upper West region. And there's another message coming in from Chachuchi Kata Jr. He says, good morning, Beatrice and the team. I am watching you live. Thank you very much for being part of the millions watching us this morning. Aziz Donna says, good morning, Beatrice. My regards to the entire crew. Please tell Cookie T. Okay, that is something I'll tell her in private.
What have I done again? What have I done
and
again?
then there's Prince Henry Koforidia says, good morning. I'm very happy with the community service bill. God bless our homeland, Ghana. And perhaps I can read this one. Okay, he's just saying thank you without a message, but thank you very much for your messages. If Dr. Samuel Afriyie is ready, we can go to him now. Doc, can you hear us?
Okay. Just that the Zoom is I don't know,
but I think it's okay that we can hear your voice. Your voice is audible enough, so that will suffice for now. But we do hope that you're well this morning.
I'm very well, and you too.
We are okay by the grace of God. Now, a number of provisions have been made in this particular Cocoa Board Act. Finally, it's been assented to, and we just want to pick your thoughts on it. First of all, what do you make of the provisions in this very act?
Thank you very much. Cocoa Board since 84, where Cocoa Board Act was established under the PNDC 81. The purpose, that was the time that the Cocoa Board was established to have an intent to structure the sector. And it has gone through a lot in terms of how pricing, in terms of financing, in terms of stakeholder, in terms of accountability, and it has, and these has led to some situations. And as times evolve, we need to change our laws to suit the order of the day. And cocoa has been one of the critical areas that has bedeviled this country for a while in terms of production, in terms of, the illegal mining situation. So, and also the pricing, when pricing keeps on changing, and I think that is what the government came up with some price last year, which the cocoa farmers were not into an agreement with. But that is the challenges that the cocoa sector is having. So the government thought it wise to come up with a new law, or maybe a through that parliament bill, to make some changes, to make sure that the cocoa sector seems to be stable. And I think the purpose for the 2026 law is to modernize cocoa board, to make it more financially more sustainable, and also to make farmers have a clear intent in terms of international cocoa pricing, and also to improve farmer welfare. And when you look at the new bill, I think one of them, that is the local processing of 50% of cocoa through the value addition, is something that is encouraging, where we institutionalize cocoa of some percentage here, because mostly sometimes we use it for syndicated loan. You use it, you go and borrow money, and then you use that cocoa, and then so that sometimes these international institutions cheat us most of the time. So it's very good that we have this new bill. And one of the challenges, as I've been saying, in terms of the cocoa sector, is the issue of the illegal mining. And when you look at the new bill, what has been introduced is that now you cannot just convert your cocoa farms easily to any other uses without the approval from Cocoa Board in terms of your usage, because it has been identified for some time past that some people, because of illegal mining, some people are turning their cocoa farms. But the new law, once you are being identified as a cocoa farmer, you cannot just convert your cocoa farms easily to be a mining or any other purpose until you get approval from Cocoa Board. And that is one thing that is encouraging in this sector. It will reduce the impact of illegal mining permeating into the cocoa sector, and making sure that we reduce the kind of production that we always come up with. But I think the producer price is what mostly the farmers. So, the new bill talks about farmers, the new bill talks about the government, also talk about how Cocoa Board can regulate the sector in the modern times. And when you look at the producer price, largely the price setting was determined through existing administrative system. That is the old method. But this time, the 70, I think they have introduced a guarantee farmers price at 70% when the price, when the world price and international price comes along with, then the 70% goes to the farmers, and with adjustment linked to the world price, exchange rate, and other things that can be looked at. So the pricing maybe in the intended days or months ahead, we might see the new trend of the pricing strategy by the new law that is that tends to change the focus. And you realize that the always having a syndicated loan for financing the cocoa in our sector. I think there's a new sustainable financial model that tends to use domestic cocoa bonds, financing it within that is domestically. You can raise bonds for cocoa and finance it within the crop year. And I think it's good because, when you go out to borrow money for our purchases of our cocoa, there's these people that will determine the price, maybe the interest and other things with our cocoa. But now it's within. I think we can raise enough funds to finance our cocoa. So the new law, I believe that will change a lot in the sector, but I think that the government need to engage more with the various stakeholders for them to understand how this new law is going to work. If not, there will be a misinformation and maybe knowledge gap can crop in that might not make the law to be effective, even though the law might be there, but people might not tend to go into it much more. The commitment level, the farmers, we need the farmers to understand what this new law is trying to let all of us be to be in that sector. And that is the key issue here. All these things are very good, but at the end of the day, are we saying that the farmers are known to this? Are we saying that the other stakeholders, because it's a value chain system, it's a system that we need to have all these things in place so that we can have a clear growth for that sector. So it's a very good initiative by the government for that area. And I think there's also another one about traceability across the value chain, and that is something that is challenging of late because of when your product, your cocoa is sent to the international market, they might be looking at child labor or abuse using children, or maybe some kind of chemicals within these kind of cocoa. And Brazil has been doing well in this area a lot. And they are trying to, I think the model, that most of the things that is in the new law, I think Brazil has been implementing some of them, especially for their pricing. I think they are doing it. They are financing also and traceability. So they are still, I think it's a very good initiative, and I believe this country will experience a new direction in terms of the cocoa production in the country.
Okay. Dr. Free, most farmers have received this news very well, but some of them are also asking questions about the 50% processing of the cocoa before it's exported. I mean, this is Ghana. We do have challenges. We have the energy sector challenges and sometimes financing as well, high production costs, amidst all of the challenges that we can also mention here this morning. This 50% processing before it's exported, is it really very realistic in this side of the world, or you think that we are shooting ourselves in the foot with this particular provision in the new act?
No, we can do it, It's quite unfortunate that we have not developed our cocoa sector to have.
Dr. Friye. Oh, too bad. Dr. Friye, did we lose? Okay.
Hello?
Yes, you're back on. We can hear you, sir.
Yes, I'm talking about the value chain system. That can make the difference now. When you look at the new law, it says that they are going to have a cocoa forum. And this forum, I think, will be one of the greatest opportunities for the sector to be engaged more about how these things are going to be done, the financing. Because if it is in the law that we have to have a cocoa forum to improve consultation and participation, and that is a stakeholder engagement that I was talking about. And it's in the law, so it will force all the cocoa board to ensure that these things are being discussed and to ensure that it will not just be the traditional governance system. The Cocoa Board will decide, the Cocoa Board will meet. So the stakeholder engagement will talk about people that will finance it. The financiers will be part of it. We talk about government, we talk about the farmers, we talk about investors. These people will come together. And it's possible. I know that it is possible when we put the right financial system in place to ensure that the 50%, it is possible. It is possible because other countries have been doing. We have been short in terms of these value addition. And that is what is bedeviled us. When we even compare with the Cocoa Board, you see that Cocoa Board, Gold Board is coming in the refinery here and there so that our gold will not be to those kind of just send it to the world market as such. But sometimes the processing add value to it. It's unfortunate that the cocoa processing company has not been, if I use the word, effective in this direction. So there has to be a holistic view of our value chain system if we want to ensure that the 50% value additions locally will tend to be enforced as the new law comes into place. And I believe that this time, the local, when a new thing comes in, people will tend to look at it, especially in terms of financing. We have a lot of investors, and if the sector is promising, if the sector is attractive, you see a lot of investors going in to support the cocoa. We have these banks, financial institutions that are there that will want to invest a lot in cocoa, and I think that sector will see a different direction if we have a good stakeholder participation.
Doc, Beatrice here, and I'm asking you the question about how people are reacting to the level of controls that have been introduced now. There are mixed opinions about it. There are those who feel that perhaps because this is our major export, the government should be able to take some level of control in terms of the farms, the quality, inspections, among others. But there are others who think that, well, it is my farm and I choose to do a lot with, or I have the power as regards what I choose to do with my farm and how I should go about it. Where do you stand on the levels of control because of our own national interests and also that of the farmers?
Yes, thank you very much, Beatrice. The key factor is the farmer, the relevance of knowledge or information that these farmers will get to know about the new law. And I think that is what the government needs to do as soon as practicable. There might be some issues, but in this time of governance system, if you don't engage people to get their attention and also to get their side, and maybe they can even have their option that they are proposing might even be far better than what maybe the Cocoa Board or the government is coming. So that will be a big challenge because that is my farm, it's my land. I'm using it for cocoa. And if I think that I cannot use it for cocoa, there's no profit in it, and I want to use it, why should I come and inform the government? That will be a little bit difficult in this perspective, because for all these years, the farmer has the right to decide how the land has to be used in terms of. So if now you are coming up with a law that says that I am a farmer, I cannot change it to any other purpose until I get approval from Cocoa Board, then that will be a difficulty, and that can also not allow most farmers not to register. So it is something that the government or Cocoa Board need to be very, very cautious about this implementation, so that the farmers will be aware of what is in the law. Because if I realize that if I don't, the government has to decide how my land has to be used, then I will not register, then I will not be a cocoa farmer now. I'll just tend to even not to even grow cocoa. Then the land will be there, So for the country and the nation interest, government need to engage these farmers, all of them, and they also need to know the benefit of being a cocoa farmer. There's a lot of farmer welfare in terms of the new law, where they have to strengthen they want to ensure that the new farmer focus more on what institutions and mechanisms, and I think that area will reassure the farmer that even though my land cannot be used for any other purpose, but for the national interest, or maybe for the interest of also me as a farmer, my family, then I think that my land can be used for that purpose. And I think it will work in that direction if the government steps in and work things out as soon as practicable.
Indeed, Dr. Samuel Efree, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us this morning. He's economics and policy analyst. Thank you so much. Let me just read this message coming from an acquaintance who doesn't want the name mentioned nor the facility he's currently on admission at mentioned. And he says, "Good morning, my great French scholar." He says, "I trust that you're doing great. Please permit me to share this with you. I rushed to the hospital," and he doesn't want me to mention the name, "yesterday because my body was feeling funny. Upon arrival, I was told my BP has shot up to 200. I am on admission currently. What is surprising is that I have observed that all the people on admission at the emergency currently are there because of high BP, age ranging from 25 to 50. While on admission, the new cases that reported were all high BP related. A young lady has also had stroke. With partial stroke in front of me, my neighbor died last week due to high BP. The veins in his brain got ruptured. If the young people of a country are dying of BP, what becomes of the future of the country? Ministry of Health must sensitize, educate, because something is wrong. Our food, seasonings for food, foreign seasoning, eating habits, I don't know." And yeah, of course, he talks about not mentioning his name, but obviously
that's
appealing.
a bit concerning.
Yes,
though.
and he's currently on admission. We're wishing you a speedy recovery, and also the kind of people he says are currently on admission with from as young as 25 years.
You know, somewhere somebody said the other day that it's unfortunate that you come from this side of the world, because the way the systems are designed here, the systems are designed to not help young people thrive in the rightful environment. And sometimes it's unfortunate because the kind of pressure that's on young people in this country, and especially even men. And unfortunately, because they are not able to voice out what their challenges are most of the time, they tend to hold it in, and it results in some of these health challenges. We do wish him well, but please do take care of yourselves out there. Peter T has sent a message that reads, "Good morning. It's been my hottest expectation for long for these bills to be passed by Parliament and be assented by the man of the land, His Excellency President Mahama. Ghanaians are now in safe hands, and this is in this more productive NDC administration. Let's all support the government to achieve its developmental policies and programs." Okay, thank you very much for that one. I think I saw one. Did I see one from Aziz Donla? Have you read the one from Prince Henry Koforidua?
Yes, I read that earlier. Unless he sent something new.
Good morning to him as well. He's also aspiring for communications officer for the NDC. We wish you well. A lot of these, you know, campaign posters are coming in, but all of our friends and family who are vying for different positions, we do wish you very, very well. Franklin Soa of Graphic Communications Group, good morning to you as well. Theodore Akwa, I've seen your message. Good morning to you. And Landlord from Bolgadila says that he's also watching. It's unfortunate we may not be able to read your messages as intended because you're running out of time. But please remember to pick up your day the Milky Way with a rich, smooth taste of Peck Milk Shortcake. It's available everywhere. It is pure delight. A number of issues tabled for the big discussion this morning, the big issue. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get to it.
Let's go.
bank in US, as it were, had his Turkish counterpart to bribe officials in Ghana just so they could have the energy contract in the country. And we've had the Office of the Special Prosecutor telling us about what his office is doing, and also looking at really the kind of collaborations that are being done to help deal with corruption and save the country some money. So we'll be going into it. And also yesterday in the afternoon, we had the government spokesperson Felix Kwachu announcing to us some changes with ministers and their designated ministries and what that would mean for the administration of the government. We'll be looking into all of this. Once again, my name is Beatrice Sedu. Thank you very much for joining us. Before I introduce my panel, I want us to watch a bit of the press conference by the Special Prosecutor Kisia Jabin yesterday. Watch this.
At the OSP, we do not regard the fight against corruption as a competition between institutions and as pitching one public agency against the other. At the OSP, we reckon that the anti-corruption drive is better served through cooperation and collaboration among public institutions. History teaches us that where investigative and intelligence agencies compete among themselves and fail to cooperate with each other, unhappy events ensue, as was the case with the infamous events of 11 September 2001 in the United States. We call on our sister investigative, intelligence, and prosecutorial institutions. Let us cooperate with each other. Let us collaborate. Let us share intelligence. Let us compare notes. Let us work together. It is one Republic of Ghana, just one. So let us make her great and strong.
And you just watched the Special Prosecutor Kisia Jabin. Let me introduce my panel now. I do have on the table with us the Mr. Lom Nuku Ahlija, who is lawyer, law lecturer at GIMPA. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Beatrice.
Of course, I also do have with us Mr. Kwame Nkrumah-Boatio. He's private legal practitioner. Good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us. Of course, I have as well with us Mr. Awal Mohammed. He is National Communications Team Member of the Position NPP. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
We'll be joined in studio shortly as well by the Honorable Abdul Fattah Al-Hassan, who is a Member of Parliament for Yendi. He'll be joining us. I want to start with you, perhaps, Mr. Awal Mohammed, because since the 6th of August, like I said, we've been having conversations about Kwaku Asante-Bekoe and the kind of deals that he was involved in, which got him convicted. He's supposed to be sentenced in November, and he faces up to 30 years because what is reported is that he bribed officials in Ghana to get a deal for his client with the company he worked for. I want to read just a little bit of some of the things contained in the court document as reported on earlier, and why the Office of the Special Prosecutor has also found it quite necessary to, as it were, mention some names. And yes, if you read some of the court document, it said that the list, as in the list of those who were paid some monies, included $200,000 for Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, $10,000 for Ghana Official 2, $20,000 for 3 women working at the Ministry of Power, $25,000 for members of the government power team, $20,000 for Gridco engineers, $45,000 for the official trip to Turkey, and per the document, about 5 people were part of that, $30,000 for members of parliament, and $35,000 described as Bekoe's personal expenditure. And of course, other parts also say that he personally distributed about $60,000 to members of parliament. Now we have the Office of the Special Prosecutor giving us names attached to these offices. I'm wondering whether you were surprised, first of all, to hear these individuals mentioned, although let me put the caveat there. Article 19 talks about, of Ghana's constitution, talks about innocence until proven guilty.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And Good morning, Church viewers, and good morning to my colleagues in the studio. And good morning to our all MPP delegates, especially the Nasara organizers across the country. You know, I am contesting for the National Nasara organizer of the party. The party feels that the wing is really the weakest, and they needed a rebrand. So when we went for our conference, we changed the name from Nasara Coordinator to Organizer. It means the party indeed needs a rebrand. So I am committed to rebranding the wing to make it better so that we get a lot of votes within the Zango communities to ensure Dr. Bawumia wins 2028 elections and the MPP gets majority of votes. So I was not surprised to hear people who have been mentioned, and he says they are people of interest, not necessarily guilty, that he believes that he will want to really talk to them and so on. But what I am surprised is that I was expecting to hear the MOP girls that was mentioned in the court documents in the US and the presidential relative. I didn't also hear that, but maybe as in the course of the maybe investigations, they will be able to unveil them. But you see, this really brings to really something that is serious that we have to look at, because in 2014-2015, when Dumso was at its peak, that was when a lot of these agreements were signed. And if these agreements, about 50 of them at a point in time, were signed because we're at the Dumso was at its apogee, and we believe that we needed these power plants to be able to solve it. And they went in to sign a lot of take-or-pay agreements and so on. And if you look at this one and the amounts of monies that we even paid subsequently, even though they were not producing the right electricity we needed to even solve our problems, then it becomes problematic. I think this should not end with this. We have to go through and look at all these power purchase agreements that we did between 2015 and 2016, so that at least these ones will be uncovered. If you look at all these, the charges and the conviction, and how they arrived at the conviction, they looked at his personal email address. And if you look at the personal email, that is when he named people, that he has given this amount of money to these people, he has given this amount of money to these people, and so on. So it means, indeed, there are some iota of truth in whatever he said, because the U.S. prosecutors were able to arrive at a conviction, and they didn't do it within just a year or two. He was arrested around 2020. And they had to really go through all this process from 2020, and were able to get conviction just about a month or so ago. So it means it was thorough and meticulous. And in the document, the power minister was mentioned, the former power minister. He was mentioned in the document, because when usually they do not mention names. But when you look at the $1 million that $1 million that he said he had paid, he mentioned Dr. Kwabena Donko.
Well, he's come out to deny ever receiving anything.
Yes, I'm saying that, but if you
lawyer as well,
usually the U.S. courts do not mention individuals, but they were able to push him to mention the power minister, that indeed he gave the power minister $1 million. So it means he is someone of interest that we will have to really investigate. But you see, if you look at the way the things are turning out, after it came out and we held a press conference that was held at the party headquarters, and it was our spokesperson on legal affairs, Nana Ejeba Fowa. After our press conference, we said we do not trust the Attorney General to prosecute this case because of the individuals involved a presidential relative who went to AXA and did all this and introduced AXA to the power minister, Dr. Kwabena Donko, at the time. He went to Turkey and did all these things. And again, Dr. Kwabena Donko, who is still an appointee today because he's the board chair of GATT, we do not trust this Attorney General to be able to prosecute and get Ghana the needed justice we want. So just after that, I think the Deputy Attorney General was in your studios here. And he said that, well, he believes that the OSP will not be able to do justice to it. He believes Yoko should be able to do it. You see, because Yoko, it is Remoracha who is there. So Remoracha will be able to do their work for them so that they will be able to whitewash them.
How do you conclude? How do you conclude on this?
Last year, some individuals, including Dr. Ken Ashibe, sent a petition for Yoko to investigate 2 NDC national officers. What happened to that?
But you just admitted that it took meticulous work on the part of the U.S. from 2020 up until now to get a conviction. So how do you expect Yoko to get a conviction in 1 year?
I didn't say they should get a conviction. We don't even have an update.
But you're just asking what
I'm
happened.
saying that we do not have an update on Abanga and Yamin for the last 1 year, not even an update.
I'm going by the same argument you made, that you admit that the U.S., it took between 2020 and now. And you're expecting Yoko to give you that in 1 year?
Look at the rush in which Yoko do its work in this country. If someone is appointed, look at the Wuntubi trial. Marathon. Within 6 months, they got conviction. But people who are on the grounds, to the extent that the Attorney General told us that he had directed Yoko to investigate, at least if for nothing at all, we did an update, but we didn't get the update. Besides, even the U.S. court and the prosecutors admitted that it is OSP that aided them to secure that conviction. Now you are telling us that OSP will not be able to do that thorough investigation when it is the OSP that aided them in Ghana here for them to even arrive at the conviction of Beku. But they are telling us because they have a history of nolle prosequi. That is the reason we do not trust them. This government, since they took over, had filed nolle prosequi, had discontinued cases that all NDC former appointees were involved in. So today, if a former appointee is to stand trial, especially on this thing, it will be difficult for the current Attorney General, looking at his history for the past 1 year, 8 months, where he will never prosecute anyone who is an NDC man. Even the cases that are in court, he discontinued to the tune of 7 billion Ghana cedi.
You heard the Attorney General talking to us about evidence and some of the reasons behind discontinuing the case or filing for nolle prosequi. And even in the recent case, regarding the Maslow CEO, you've read the judgment and you've seen what the court said about lack of evidence among all of those things that the prosecution was supposed to do.
What was the reasons? Since you know the reasons he filed the nolle prosequi on all these cases, what was the reasons for discontinuing Saglemi? He didn't give us any reason. He didn't give us any reason to discontinue Asiama case, the current Bank of Ghana CEO. He did not give us even the reasons.
On the
even the Unibank trial. Today, the media has sent right to information to get to how he was able to arrive at 60% payment and writing off 40% for Dr. Dufo. He is not even, they are not even complying with that.
On the 8th of August, we heard we saw the Deputy Attorney General post on his X page, and this is what he said, that the Honorable Attorney General is working with his United States counterpart to bring to book persons who are implicated in the bribery scheme related to the 2014 to 2017 power plant development contract between a Turkish energy company and the government. This follows Asante Kwekubeko's conviction by a United States federal jury in Brooklyn Brooklyn, New York, on charges of conspiracy to violate the United States Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and other related laws. How does the Department of the Attorney General state this, and you claim on this table that there is no interest on the part of the government to try to bring to book those who have
yes,
been,
because
who are found to be guilty?
The prosecutors in the U.S. said they were aided in this cautery by OSP to arrive at a conviction. So why are you preventing the OSP from investigating it and prosecuting it? Why do you think that Yoko, that did not get involved in all this, should be able to do it, but OSP that aided the U.S. prosecutors for years will not be able to do this? The reason we want the OSP, I have my reservations with the current OSP, but the reason we want the Office of the Special Prosecutor to do this is that by their law, every quarter they give us updates on the cases that they are involved in. If you give it to Yoko, it will turn like the Abanga and Yamin issue. They will tell you we are still investigating, and you will not hear anything again, because this government has a history of discontinuing cases. $200 million for Sagleme. They have discontinued it. 60% given to Dufour, that they have written off 40% for him and so on. All these cases were going on when they discontinued them. So Ghanaians will not trust the Attorney General to investigate someone like Dr. Kwabena Donkor, because the person who even introduced him to this is a relative of the president. So that's the reason we believe that an independent inquiry, especially the OSP, should be able to do this, because the US even said that they did the work together with him. So why are you preventing him from doing it?
I want to get your thoughts, Lawyer Hija, on the fact that the special prosecutor is not just looking at this very case. He's looking at collaborating with agencies to deal with corruption and corruption-related issues. And he also given his commitment that the office would be looking at preventing corruption. How do you look at how he's approaching things?
Well, that's how it should be, because he mentioned the fact that they are collaborating, or they want more collaboration with other security agencies. That goes without saying. And in fact, it ties in with something that Awal is saying. But the point here is that all institutions that have the investigative mandates or the prosecutorial powers are free to investigate any matter that they desire to, which means that it is possible at a particular point in time for several agencies to be investigating the same matter. That is the reason why the OSP, for example, will say that they should share intelligence, they should exchange notes, they should compare notes, and so on. There is no rule that says that only one investigative body should look at a particular matter at a time. So I don't think that there's any gag or hold on OSP investigating it, and I don't think that Attorney General has said anything in that regard. What happens is that OSP may be investigating it, the police may be investigating it, IOCO may be investigating it, but at some point, one of them would have had to either present a case to court or something. And if they are sharing information, then one of them would have been decided amongst them to essentially file the case or be the lead as far as the investigation is concerned. If that has not been done, they will know soon enough, because eventually one of these organizations will have to make a formal move by actually charging someone or some people. But until that is done, any of these agencies can continue with their investigations if that's what they are doing. So the question of whether the OSP is being directed or asked not to investigate, I don't think that's the case, because in fact the OSP himself has said from the press conference that they are investigating it. Now, the U.S. collaboration element, it means perhaps, you see, the trigger for the U.S. investigation is what will show how come the OSP became involved in that process. But as we know, they have already informed Ghanaians that they supported the U.S. in the investigation, which means that as we sit here today, the OSP is not starting that investigation from scratch. It's actually built on something that exists previously. I'm sure that they already had the names of the individuals and groupings that they've mentioned already. It's just because they were waiting for the U.S. process perhaps to conclude, which now brings the focus directly on Ghana. So as it stands now, I think that's what's happening. By law, as you said, every person who's alleged to have committed an offense is innocent until they are proven guilty, and they are, of course, entitled to the full protection of the law. But you see, one of the dimensions of this case, which obviously touches on matters related to corruption, is the fact that it is not a one administration transaction, as we can see, because the players are not necessarily for one part of the political divide. Beku that we are talking about, who has been convicted in the United States of America, was an appointee of another administration. So it tells you that matters related to public corruption or issues that are concern these kinds of investigations may not necessarily be limited to one political administration at a time. It may cross boundaries, and that's the reason why and we have in Ghana as a rule that crime does not have an expiration date. So there's no time limitation on something that is a criminal conduct, which is why you can see the duration of this transaction and how long it has taken before the U.S. have even gotten to this point. So now Ghanaian authorities also should do their part, which is to investigate further, build upon the information that the U.S. had. It will be surprising to even know that even those who were prosecuted in the U.S. may not have been all the parties involved, because the U.S. also have the right to make a prosecutorial discretion as to who to charge. There are times when they may know more but charge lesser people for other reasons. Or even they may have evidence which they did not present at trial, which may still be relevant for the Ghana aspect. So OSP already working with them, continue on that path. And any other state institution that has any role to play also will be able to build their case and share information, as he said, because that's best practice as far as security and enforcement issues are concerned.
I will come to you. Let me get
on where he landed.
Yes, when I come back to you, please, I want to get your submissions on this.
Well, I think the OSP is doing a good job. I listened to the press briefing, and I think it's good he assisted the U.S. authorities in securing the conviction, because bribery is a canker that is pervasive in our jurisdiction, and it directly and indirectly leads to a lot of problems. You know, all this that has happened, if you look at Article 35(8) of the 1992 Constitution, if you look at Section 239 of our Criminal Offences Act and Act 5959, the OSP Act itself, they are all against bribery. And we know that bribery is something that gives another person an undeserved advantage, you know, even to go beyond the law. Ghanaians speak of themselves as being a religious country. If you go all the way to Exodus, Deuteronomy, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Amos, they all talk about how bribery blinds the eyes of the taker. So it's something that we have to let the hammer hit hard. However, at the same time, I think strategically it's good the OSP has indicated these people as persons of interest and not suspects. Because from the evidence being bandied around so far, they are based on some emails that were sourced from the convict, Mr. Asante Beku. However, as to whether these emails were telling others that I've given this money to this person and that person, then I suppose that it is not enough to secure a conviction of these named individuals, because anyone who is, I'll say, corrupt enough to give a bribe is also corrupt enough to lie about giving a bribe. So let's allow the OSP to do their work. But that means there will be paper trails, even if there's payments in cash, there will be meetings, there will be ways of establishing. Even if there's a 1 cedi bribe, it is still a bribe for something as substantial as our energy sector, because that means that there were other players who probably could have done better for us, but because they were unwilling, because they wanted to do the right thing, they were deprived. And it's something that is pervasive, especially in Africa, where we have competent institutions and companies who can do their best for nations, but they are left out because they are not willing to play ball. And this should serve as an example. We should all back not only the OSP, but all the investigative institutions where we feel they are slowing down or dropping the ball, as Awal said. We should call them to order. We should ask what is happening with this case, what is happening with that case, because as Lom also said, it stretches across various administrations, and at the end of the day, all of us are the losers, we the citizens and our descendants. So let's back them by being on their necks, so that they're on their toes, whether AG, OSP, EOCO. Let's encourage them to work together, because when there's this division also, the only people who benefit are those who believe in crime and who encourage crime. So let's support them.
And I want to come back to you, Ms. Awa Mohammed, because you earlier were talking about why you trust the special prosecutor and his office to investigate this. What would you say to critics who would express surprise at what you've said? Because we've had this same special prosecutor talk about how he felt he was being prevented from doing his work under the erstwhile administration, and at a point even said that he was Ankonam. We also saw what happened with Martin Amidu. How do you justify that?
Okay, so it is not true that it transcends one administration. The entire transaction ended around 2016.
I'm talking about the fight against corruption.
I'll come there. I'll come to. Lom said it transcends an administration because Bekun is an appointee, was an appointee of Akufo-Addo.
Yes, he was the MD for
Yes,
talk.
but the entire transaction ended with the Mahama administration. There was no mention of the transaction happening under Akufo-Addo. He was appointed TOR MD for 3 months and he was forced to resign. And that is it. Again, the Deputy Attorney General never in any way said that they are collaborating. He said, oh, Yoko is taking over. That was explicit on Joy News. He said Yoko is taking over the local investigation, but if there is the need for collaboration, then they will collaborate. That is where we find it problematic, because those who assisted them in doing the work are supposed to build on what they have already. It is the OSP that assisted the US in doing the investigations and they got the conviction. So they have built those here already that they could build on. Why do you take it to give to an institution that did not even know anything about it? That is why we suspect that because the officials involved are NDC officials, they will want to whitewash them. But back to when you said he was Ankonam, he never said that he was prevented from doing his work by the government. He said he was Ankonam because the courts were preventing him from securing conviction. Go and check. When he said he was Ankonam, he did a press conference. And for the records, the OSP office was highly resourced under Akufo-Addo, and he never said that he was starved of cash or he was even prevented from doing his work. So the Ankonam issue, that was when I said he was not fit for that office. When he came out to say that he was Ankonam, the judges are not helping him because he lost a case in our chairman in Gabi, that is Chamalute's case. When after he lost, he came and did press conference and he said the judges are not helping him. And he said he was Ankonam and said, if you say this to judges, it means you don't even fit to sit in that office. And I've been saying this to a fault, that indeed this man is not fit for that office. But I believe that in this case, because they built that docket with the US government or the US prosecutors, I certainly believe that he will be able to do a thorough job than the Yoko or the Attorney General, because the Attorney General has a history of filing knowledge prosequi, discontinuing cases that NDC officials are involved. And again, I mentioned that if you look at the OSP's act, he has to give periodic, it is embedded in the act that he has to give periodic updates. So if for nothing at all, if he starts, at least in the next 4 months, we'll get an update on where he has gotten to. With Yoko, it will die the way the Abanga and Yamin cases had died.
But Mr. Wow, the special prosecutor, Kisia Mjaben, of course, talked about his frustrations, logistical constraints, even talked about the issue about the Cecilia Dapa, among others. And then you also talk about the fact that
he never said it was government that was frustrating him.
If we go back to his press conferences,
because you see, for the first time, what Akufo-Addo had done, no government had ever done that before.
Martin Abi
for him,
equally complained of the same thing.
What did he complain? It was at the 8th embryonic stage when he took over. So
and
definitely,
he was forced to resign in November 2020?
Who forced him to resign?
But he talked about the government and even mentioned the former president as being the mother serpent of corruption.
Then you didn't read his reasons.
I did.
Or you didn't follow. What did he do? He was asked to do corruption risk assessment on Ajapa. He did that. And the government put that to a hold. Did he expect the president to shoot those who were involved? The thing didn't even go. It was in Parliament, about to be approved, the Ajapa royalties deal. Then the government, Akufo-Addo, directed him to do corruption risk assessment. He did that assessment and told Akufo-Addo that, don't proceed. And we didn't proceed. We sent it back to Parliament. What did he expect again? And again, the logistical constraints he talked about, that was the embryonic stage of the office. He took that office without an office. And we tried to give him offices to the extent that we arrive at where he is today.
The concern, for instance, that the investigation was sat on?
But what will we do? What do you expect the government to do at the time? Because it was not implemented. If it was implemented, that means indeed what he did was not accepted. He did the corruption risk assessment that made Akufo-Addo to send the thing back to Parliament, that Parliament should do a thorough job.
It doesn't equalize what you're saying, that you believe the current Attorney General is not interested in prosecuting people because officials are connected to the current government. You don't think that this is a similar incident of a government not interested in prosecuting corruption and those who are involved?
Who were involved in Ajapa and what was done? Nothing was done in Ajapa. It was just something that was being set up.
Cecilia Dapa's case?
For the first time in the history of this country, a president submitted his cabinet minister for that scrutiny. Cecilia Dapa was a cabinet minister when the man was arrested here.
And the same special
it has never happened.
The same special prosecutor.
I'm saying that the same special prosecutor had the leverage to arrest Cecilia Dapa, to arrest A.B. Ejay, to arrest people involved in this government.
And the same special prosecutor talking about he having information that Ken Ofori-Atta was about to leave and yet he didn't, it's like his hands were tied, couldn't do much.
No, that was his incompetence, because if he had really put a red notice on the man wouldn't have left. If he had put a stop list on him, he wouldn't have left this country.
You describe his inability, as it were, to get Ken Ofori-Atta to stay as his incompetence, but now you trust him to investigate this.
I am telling you that the reason I have my reservations with the man, Kisia Jabin, and the way he operates. But I'm saying that they have built a dossier together with the U.S. government. And they are clothed with all the necessary facts that they will be able to do a thorough job than the Attorney General's office. At least in the two scenarios, this one is better than the other one. Because in this one, it is true that about 8 people who were standing trial and the monies to the tune of 7 billion Ghana cedi, they have discontinued them, that the state is not interested in them.
Now, you said that...
There is a reason. So such a person, if you give him the opportunity to prosecute NDC former officials or NDC officials today, will he be able to do that? No.
Now
because he has a history of discontinuing cases that the NDC people are involved.
You're dismissing the fact that this man was the MD of TOR and whether or not he has any link to do with this. And then you talk about this whole thing ending with the then first administration of former President, President
that are the facts.
Now the current president.
Yes, that are the facts.
There are details reported by Nordic Monitor, and it says that AXA says the electricity is sold to the state-owned electricity company of Ghana under a guaranteed purchase agreement, which was extended for another 15 years in October 2022.
Yes.
October 2022, it was the then Akufo-Addo government that was in power.
Yes.
And then it says AXA has since expanded further in Ghana in 2023 with which was again under Akufo-Addo, it signed a separate 20-year dollar-denominated agreement with ECG of Ghana for a planned 350-megawatt natural gas plant in Kumasi. The first phase began partial commercial production in December 2025 and reached 130 megawatts in 2026. Just to say in this point that there were other contracts as well that were linked to this same company which has been found to be corrupt.
Yes, but what is in contention today is the 370 megawatts. That is where the problem is. The rest, nothing has been found that indeed it was not signed according to the law. And again, AXA came, first year they didn't produce much, second year they didn't produce much, but now they have expanded and they are producing. And we believe that at this point in time, if you expand it, it will be okay. So that's why I said that even the investigations should transcend the AXA alone and other power purchase agreements. I'm saying that this case that went to court has nothing to do with the extension in 2022. It has nothing to do with the 2023 agreement. These are separate agreements. The agreement that Asante Beku got involved in is the 2017. In 2022, Asante Beku was nowhere near the agreement because Asante Beku at the time was even arrested. He was not nowhere near the agreement. But at least today, he is an energy expert. Lom is an energy expert, and he will tell you that you can't do away with AXA today. Looking at how they have expanded and so on, and it will affect the grid. So, yes, we have extended or have signed 2 separate agreements with them. But what we're talking about is the first agreement that was signed with them, how they entered into the market. And Asante Beku never played any role in the 2 other agreements that we signed with them.
I want to introduce with us the Honorable Abdul Fattah Al-Hassan. He's a Member of Parliament for Yendi. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning to my co-panelists. Good morning to the good people of Yendi, and good morning to everyone. Thanks for having me this morning.
I know you've been listening in, and I want to get your preliminary thoughts as well. Beyond this Kweku Asante Beku issue, the special prosecutor is also talking about the need to collaborate and indeed deal with corruption even before they happen. What are your general thoughts, and also some of the comments made by Awal Mohammed that he doesn't trust that the Attorney General or any other institution will be able to do a good job when it comes to prosecuting local persons who might have collaborated with Beku?
Okay, so let me start first by looking at the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act of the U.S. You see, the U.S., their laws are usually far-reaching, much more far-reaching than most domestic laws of other countries. And so when you have a law like the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act of the U.S., describing something as this, it is not every domestic law that may agree with the U.S. because they have couched their laws in such far-reaching ways to ensure that sometimes, even in the U.S. system, sometimes, even where the deal does not go through, people are found guilty. So even promises. In Ghana, for instance, regardless of whatever discussions I may have had with you, if at the end of the day, the deal we want to bring on board does not come to fruition, it dies with almost everything. But in the US, even a promise of anything that they don't even care the quantum. They don't care whatever it is. Once it was a promise, even if the contract does not come to fruition, they still consider it as being corrupt, as a corrupt act. And so, so when you look at it, it is the international standard. Most nations, not even most advanced nations, even in Germany, most advanced nations are aspiring to the standard set by the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act of the US. And so it is not like the local laws of most countries. That is why have they even come into this case? Look, the company involved, none of the companies involved is registered in the US. None of them. Not AXA, not Trico, not even a single company. None of the individuals named
hails from the US or is a citizen of US. And none of any aspect of the transactions took place in the US. No payment was made in the US. Yet their laws were able to go after these people. Simply because they have this SWIFT system. And that regardless of wherever you do your transaction, even if you did your transaction in Germany, and the parties are maybe Italians, and you make payments, and the payment go through their SWIFT system, because remember they control the SWIFT system. Once it passes through their SWIFT system, to them, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act give them the power to investigate that payment. You understand? So most of the things we do here locally, in fact, they can sit there and have jurisdiction over some of the things we do, even the local transfers we do. Once we are using SWIFT system that is controlled by the US. Because that payment was made through a New York, Brooklyn bank. You understand? So let us, and you see, most of the things we see here, for instance, if you look at it into detail, you find that even sometimes per diems for travels are seen by them as corrupt. In our system here, we do not see it as such. In fact, there is no official that you take on a trip, on an official trip, for anything, and there won't be a per diem attached to his travel. Such things are considered very normal here. But with the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, they are described as corrupt practices. And so the extent of their definition of what is corruption is so far-reaching that if you don't take your time, you may want to bring people in as being corrupt. When in our local system here, those things are normal. You understand? We support every call for investigation. And that is why the former power minister, through his council, Katie Hammond, they have come out to issue a statement to say that they are ever ready to make themselves available for any form of investigation. I see the investigation having a wider span because they're talking about even officers of ECG, of GRIDCO, of VRA. Yes, these things must be investigated. If they are even in our, and they are going to be investigated with the lenses of our local laws, not with the lenses of the U.S. Foreign Court. Asante Beko's own was done with the lenses of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act of the U.S. because he was prosecuted in the U.S. In this instance, we are going to look at it from the angle of our local laws. Do our local laws have same biting effect, same far-reaching consequences like the US one? I bet you differ. And so, and I don't know where my people are coming from, NPP are coming from. When OSP is involved in one case, you are attacking OSP on the issue of bringing Ken Oforiatta to come and stand for trial. You are attacking OSP. At one point, OSP is good to fight or to pursue this case. At another point, if it doesn't involve you and it involves another person, then AG is not good.
It's better than AG.
You cannot define for us. NPP, you cannot sit here and define for us what is better. You understand? That is why even in the I was quiet. That is why even when the matter of OSP's power to prosecute went before the Supreme Court still gives them the power, but says it's still subject somehow to the control of the Attorney General. You cannot, for your interest, throw away our laws. So far as the OSP is still coming to operate under our laws, they are to some extent under the control of the Attorney General. So if you say the OSP must follow through with this case and not any other person, what becomes of even the power given to the Attorney General by our laws and even the effects of the pronunciation or the pronouncement by the Supreme Court, which says that if at any point of the OSP prosecution, the Attorney General can even come in and stop it.
Yes.
And so it still doesn't, even if the OSP pursues it and the Attorney General has that thinking you have, it still doesn't stop the Attorney General.
We want that to happen.
Yes,
so
I know.
Will see.
We want but I'm telling you that. But I am telling you that narrative you are putting across is not solid because it's still that power is still with the Attorney General. So regardless of who is doing it, it's still the same thing. You understand? It's not. Now, these individuals, for me, They have, and you made a statement which I think we should. It's a station, a media house that we should. You said when you were putting the last question to you came to describe AXA as a company that has been found to be corrupt. I think it's good we correct it. AXA in nowhere, if you read the judgment, was AXA. Even AXA was not named in the whole judgment. They were described as uncharged co-conspirator. If you don't charge somebody, you can't find the person guilty. So I think, for the sake of the network that we all sit on, let's not describe AXA as a corrupt institution. So far as they haven't been charged, even under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, we cannot describe them as. So the only person currently who stands to be called a convict, as far as the case there is concerned, is Asante Beko. You understand? And to me, the Attorney General of this country, if you talk about, Awa went to town to care about the fact that they don't trust Attorney General because he has filed nollie prosequi, he has done this. Look, you have wasted the whole Ghana. You have wasted our time for 8 years. You had 8 years to prosecute these people. You dilly-dallied. You were even trying to sway the thinking of witnesses in court to get them to side with you, to get people who the laws were totally in favor of, to twist the laws to get them to jail. You had records of your Attorney General speaking to people, witnesses, you understand, to go one way or the other in terms of the evidences they give in court. This was a weak case. You had weak cases against this. You were only going for political opponents just to suit your appetite. And you think Ghanaians must waste our taxpayers' money pursuing these people when there's nothing for it. In fact,
there's nothing in Saglemi.
Now you had 8 years to prosecute Saglemi. What did you bring to Ghanaians?
It was not.
You should be held accountable for what you have
supposed to be.
I'll come to you.
So what do you? If in 8 years you couldn't complete Saglemi prosecution, what do you expect?
Saglemi did not start 8 years.
Check
the date.
When did you start it?
You have your
but you had 8 years in power.
Yeah, but you see, you had 8 years. But you had 8 years. Only 8 years.
But you had.
We have cases that we got convictions.
How long did Opuni case start?
8 years.
Open case. They ran for 7 years.
Yes, they ran for 7 years.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you get
because we believe that
did you get
the law must be meticulous.
We shouldn't be in a hurry. What we are telling you is that look,
we shouldn't be in a hurry.
And how come throughout your 8 years? How come throughout your 8 years? We had MPP functionaries, NDC functionaries.
Mr. Mohammed, I'll come to you.
And these people being who? These people being who?
Former government appointees. Some went to
jail,
including the brother of the president.
And you think today the same law should not come. And you think today the same law should not come for former government appointees?
We did not file a nollie prosequi on any case that anyone is involved that the person is an NPP person. Never did that.
Which case was involved when you were in power? Which case was involved with regards to NPP people when you were in power?
There were no cases.
Exactly.
Because they won cases. They won all the cases.
Because you prosecuted your own
people. They won the cases under you. Because Asabi went to court and won the case. Yes, you prosecuted Asabi together with his wife. And he won the case in 2014. All the people you prosecuted, we didn't inherit. We did not inherit any case that you were prosecuted. I'm saying we didn't inherit any case that you were prosecuted.
So you to say that this guy, what's his name? The former MP, Abu Gapele.
Yes.
You didn't inherit that case.
We inherited that case.
So look at him.
No, I said
it's okay.
That
it's okay.
Involved MPP. I said that involved MPP officials. Okay. That was what I mean.
Please land on your thoughts.
So because Abu Gapele was not an MPP official, you didn't find out prosecutor. You allowed him to go.
No, but we don't have history of filing nollie prosequi.
So I am telling you
we don't have that history of filing nollie prosequi on our people.
I am telling you.
We do not have that history of filing nollie prosequi on our people.
No.
You have the history. No. In the last 1 year, 8 months, you've done all this.
I think I'll come to you.
Yes.
And I've said this repeatedly.
He is asking me the questions.
Please.
I'm responding to things. I was here when you were making those allegations.
Make your point.
I never responded to you when you were making those allegations. So if you can allow me to also proceed, you understand.
But you are done.
Honorable,
yes, I'm basically done. So what I'm telling you is that allow the state institutions, look, be it Yoku, be it Attorney General, be it OSP, these are all laws set up. These are all institutions set up by our laws. And we must respect their existence.
The Honorable Fatal, one of the reasons we set up the special prosecutor was because we felt that we're not paying critical attention to corruption and cases around it. Now, if you look at the objectives of the special prosecutor per the OSP Act, it says that that is one, to investigate and prosecute cases of alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offences under the Public Procurement Act 2003, Act 663. B says investigate and prosecute allegations of corruption and corruption-related offences under the Criminal Offences Act 1960, Act 29, involving public officers, politically exposed persons, and it goes on. And then C talks about investigate and prosecute alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offences involving same as mentioned in B. And we've heard the Deputy Attorney General saying that it is rather Iyoko that is going to lead this. What would you say to those who are expressing concern that that is the main agency, as it were, established to look critically into corruption? Why do you want to put him aside and let other agencies that may equally have the same authority?
If you go and read the
to
work of the Constitutional Review Committee that has just finished their work, they were coming to this point to say that we should take away all corruption or corruption-related offences from even the AG,
yes,
and give it to OSP. That thinking is flawed. It's very flawed.
Why? Then why set up the OSP?
When they were setting up the OSP, we thought that they were just doing mere duplication. Mere duplication. Because today, they themselves, in the last few months, they were on the neck of the OSP for failing to deliver on its mandate. The same people who set it up. So we have nothing to say about OSP. They set it up, and they were advising them that it was not the best way out. But they used their numbers and pushed it through. And not long ago, they were always fighting OSP. Now, you see, when you say everything about corruption and corruption-related offences should be taken to OSP and the AG should have nothing to do with it. So now, if an officer is the facts surrounding a particular case, regarding a particular officer, those facts bring out issues of corruption, and they bring out other offenses, not necessarily corruption. In that case, if you don't take your time, what you have is that you have one officer being prosecuted by two agencies, because those facts that give rise to other offenses that do not amount to corruption or corruption-related offenses will now be handled by one agent, one state institution, say Iyoko, say Attorney General. And then you have those set of facts from the same action, which have to do with corruption and corruption-related offenses, being now taken over by what? OSP. Now, the same person will now be subjected to even cruel prosecution, because today he's in court with Iyoko, or if you like, Attorney General. The next morning he's going to court with OSP.
But that's what is happening with Untubi.
Mr. Awao, respectfully, I'll come to you.
That's what is happening with Untubi. He's in
Honorable,
multiple
has
several cases.
So why can't you consolidate it to one?
You don't understand. Maybe because you are not a lawyer, you don't understand. If you are saying something, let me educate him. Do you know that one act can give rise to several offences?
Okay, so but you think that
it's my time.
Honorable Fatao, please make your point.
You understand? The reason why most people are not in agreement with that position is that it is in the way. It was not for nothing that the crafters of our constitution put everything, all offences, at the behest of the Attorney General, so that that individual who is standing trial does not suffer the pain of having to the same offence or if you like the same action that the person is involved in. Part of it is handled by one agency, part of it is handled by another agency.
There are those who think that perhaps the politicians from both sides generally just do not want to deal with corruption, because if you look at the act itself, in one breath it says that the OSP should not be interfered in doing its work. In another breath, it is under the authority of the Attorney General, and even the recent ruling from the Supreme Court vindicates that position.
I disagree with you, because it's the position who still pass the laws. But all the laws about corruption did not come about as a result of private members' bills. They were bills sent to Parliament by governments, and those governments are politicians. And those who pass them into law in Parliament are equally politicians. So if the politicians are running away from this, why would they even introduce bills to Parliament to address it? And why would they even support those bills in Parliament to become laws? You understand? So I disagree with that position that we are running away. Politicians are putting together a system that we think should work. It should be time tested, and it should be able to be far-reaching enough to address our concerns. The fact that we have put together those systems does not mean that we should allow flaws in the system to coexist with the right. So no politicians run away from the system. The OSP, as it stands now, yes, we all agree. In fact, if you read the case, they'll tell you some of the collaborations that have been had in respect of these offences, the prosecution of Asante Beko. You see, when you're prosecuting these cases in Ghana, you would need even witnesses from the US. It's not going to be easy. You look, the US decide that sometimes they want you to give them the necessary assistance. But when you need this assistance from them, it becomes a little difficult. So we may not get it as readily as they will get it from us. Because obviously they are better placed and they have some powers than we have. You understand? And so it's not going to be so smooth sailing. But I still disagree, and I go for the position that we should put these people before our laws. We should do the necessary investigations, and we should go to the every length possible to make sure that at least we bring this matter to a close. Nobody is running away from accountability.
I want to come to you, Mr. Ahlija, about really this whole thing about who should be leading this investigation. Iyoko, as said by the Deputy Attorney General, and also the Office of the Special Prosecutor, now coming forth to say that we are strongly investigating this as well.
Well, by law, and you alluded to this, you talked about what the Supreme Court has said in the recent matter sent by Noah Damte to the Supreme Court about the powers of the OSP. Under Ghanaian law, as it stands today, it is the Attorney General that has responsibility for all criminal matters, the initiation and prosecution of all criminal matters, which means that the Attorney General's say-so is final, is the final word as far as the law is concerned. But here we are talking about in terms of what to do about it. This same OSP Act has been upheld by the Supreme Court as valid, and the Supreme Court did not invalidate it or throw out certain provisions. It says, yes, it coexists because it is subject, that entire act is subject to the Constitution. In fact, in the act itself, it repeatedly uses those phrases, subject to the Constitution. And what is the Constitution? The Attorney General is the boss. End of story. So, like I said, there are several investigative bodies. They are free to do their investigations and so on. Eventually, one day, their expectation is that when criminality is found, some prosecution will be done. That prosecution is only the Attorney General who can do it. You have the powers to do so now. You can, but the Attorney General can stop it at any time, which means that by law you have to cooperate with the Attorney General, because at the end of the day, you can't work except that Attorney General allows you to, which means that Attorney General is the final say, which in this case means that you have to cooperate with Attorney General. It doesn't mean that the OSP cannot investigate the matter. They can investigate the matter, but at some point, eventually it comes down to the Attorney General. And I've already made this point, and the OSP also makes this point that there should be collaboration, which means that it is an understanding that many other institutions can be investigating the same matter or aspects of the same matter. So at the end of the day, there's need for collaboration because you can exchange notes, you can compare notes, you can share intelligence and all of that. Just like, for example, OSP was doing with FBI. In other jurisdictions, it's also the same. So that is the point. Now, because it is Attorney General who has that mandate under the Constitution, what it means then also is that indications that the Attorney General provides should be taken seriously, because you don't also want to waste state resources investigating a matter which is being investigated by another body who all equally has the mandate to investigate that matter. There is no need for duplication, but perhaps they have built a certain level of intelligence which you can share, and then the cases can move on accordingly. That is how it should work. Otherwise, essentially, we'll be spending scarce resources chasing the same things. But because that is the position of them, we have to be very careful, because the persons who have been named, we describe them as persons of interest. They are not even accused persons or even suspects yet. We are not even at that stage. The reason is because persons of interest means that the OSP, for what it has set out, wants to proceed further. They are not saying, because if they have enough from what they gathered for the US and all of that, they could have been charging them now. Or even not charging them, they would have been, take more aggressive steps taken. But here they say they are persons of interest, which means that the OSP still is looking at unraveling, unraveling the matter. So early days yet. We'll wait to see how.
Because he actually said
goes.
that the fact that somebody has been convicted in a foreign land doesn't mean that automatically the person should face prosecution here.
And Honorable made that point quite forcefully, because every jurisdiction's laws are very different. It can even be in name the same offense, but the definition of the offense in law is critical. And you mentioned Article 19 earlier. Under Article 19 of our Constitution, nobody can be convicted of an offense which is not written and the punishment prescribed. Now, when we say what the law is not written, it means that we must be able to define the parameters and scope of that act to be able to know precisely when somebody has done it or not. If it doesn't fit, that's it. So there are many instances where perhaps a conviction has been gotten in another jurisdiction, like in this case the US, but you may not necessarily be able to use those same facts to conclude that there's corruption, even though the title of the offenses may seem to be the same. It's about the definition, because in criminal law, we talk about the elements of the offense. All the elements of the offense must be present before a court to convict somebody of having committed that offense. And we know the standard in criminal matters is higher, precisely for the reason that we don't want any innocent person to be punished because of looseness in the rules. That's why it's that beyond reasonable doubt. You have to show, the prosecution has to show beyond a reasonable doubt that those facts under Ghanaian law constitute an offense here. If it doesn't, it means that there will be no convictions as far as that is concerned. Or if it doesn't, there may not be any prosecutions, because prosecutors first have to make a determination, exercising their prosecutorial discretion, whether to even prosecute if the elements are not met, which is why the investigation must continue, and we'll see where it will eventually land.
Indeed, and I'll come to you very shortly, Mr. Botiu, but I want to read a few messages back to you. This is from Kwejo Chumbuafo, the Chief Executive Officer of the Financial Intelligence Center. Says, good morning, Beatrice. Please ask Awal Mohammed what party he is communicating for today. I joined the program late. The reason I ask is that I used to communicate with Awal for the NDC. Then he went to MPP after we lost power. Then he came back after we won power. Then he went to the NPP after we lost power. Since we have won power again, I'm yet to hear he's back. Please ask him when he's coming back to the NDC. You are back home.
How old am I? That I can move from here and there if we are there.
And Prince Henry Koforidia says the OSP should stop the media prosecution. The media prosecution is becoming unbecoming. Ghanaians need results, not media prosecution. And I'll just read two more before I come to you. And this is from Olabode Williams, chairman. He says, chairman from Lima. He says, good morning, Beatrice. I'm sad listening to Awal this morning. Tell Awal to stop confusing us. He has not been factual in all his submissions. All what he's doing is defending the indefensible.
That's the constituency chairman for Ayawasu East.
Yes,
NDC constituency chairman.
Yes. I want to get your thoughts really on the way forward. What do you expect next? OSP has come out to say that this is what the office is doing. We've also heard Office of the Attorney General.
I think the OSP gave the solution. In his press statement, one of the things he said is he encourages collaboration amongst the investigative agencies. That means that all the investigative agencies, that's the Criminal Investigative Department that's CID of the Ghana Police Service, OSP, IOCO, they should all come together. But at the end of the day, under Article 88.3, the buck stops with the Attorney General, since they are the initiators of all criminal prosecutions. So I think they should go full speed ahead, at the same time keeping in mind that what constitutes a crime in the US may not be a crime here. At the same time, what constitutes a crime here may not be a crime in the US. Because I think Honorable made a good point that the energy company in question was listed as an uncharged co-conspirator. But that word conspirator, conspiracy, in our jurisdiction, it's a crime to be a conspirator. That means to be part of the plan and the action. Sometimes, even if you're part of the planning, but you're not part of the implementation, being part of the planning itself makes you culpable.
Having made that point, what would that mean for the continuous investment of AXA in Ghana? There are those who, for instance, cite the Yoko Act, the 25 Lee Section 24. Although AXA, like we're just talking about, has not been found guilty, as it were. But you talk about being a conspirator in the local context of our law. What happens to the investments there moving forward?
At the same time, being a co-conspirator, when an employee of a company carries out a criminal act in the name of the company itself can also be found liable. But however, there's a distinction. Sometimes you have what you call the employee being on a frolic of his own, probably trying to do things in the name of the company that the company did not know anything about or was outside the purview of that particular company, like Asante Beko and Citigroup. I suppose Citigroup was not found.
Yes.
Goldman Sachs.
Yes.
Yes.
Goldman Sachs.
So this will be looked at, and I suppose there will be a delicate, if it ends up in court, there will be a delicate balance to be done by the court, looking at the investment of the company, looking at the investment of the state itself, to see to what extent the company will be liable for the actions of its employees. And at the same time, too, we have to keep in mind that the adage is innocent until proven guilty. At the moment, there are emails saying bribes have been paid. However, I suppose at the end of the day, if the paper trails lead to the company's doorstep, and if there's enough evidential weight to see that the company was complicit in all of this, then I don't think such a company, no matter the investment they have brought into Ghana, should be allowed to continue operating. That is depending on the weight of their complicity, because any company, no matter how useful they are to the citizenry or what they've contributed, if their modus operandi is to engage in criminal activities in order, as they say, when it comes to crime, the end does not justify the means. That means whatever assets. Of course, the government will just have to strike a balance and see how these assets can be taken over.
So what you're saying is, beyond the names and the institutions that were mentioned, even in that press conference by the special prosecutor, we should also be looking at the investments that are currently in Ghana.
Exactly. And proceeds of crime can be confiscated by the state. If at the end of the day, we see that the foundation of everything was based on criminal acts, layers upon layers, then I suppose the government can engage somebody to take over these assets, take over whichever contracts. That is assuming there's guilt established. At the moment, I would say that it is innocent until proven.
And I want to come to you, but let me just read a few messages from YouTube. Samuel Wisdom says, okay, let me start from David, who says, a whole president who put his presidency on the board said Akunta Mining was not doing galamsey. Someone tell our Nanado turned himself into a clearing agent anytime his appointees were corrupt. They said this is something you will never see President Mahama do. Dr. Kwabena Domko would never have been called if he was MPP and it was Nanado in office. And I'll come to you. Let him give his response and I'll come to you.
Further education on, especially on I was talking about the expansive nature of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, but there have two other layers that our laws here would not even recognize as offenses. For instance, when they are dealing with an institution, when they are investigating an institution, or when there's a transaction and the institution is not able to maintain accurate records of that transaction, they find it as an offense, and that institution can be found guilty of corruption just by the mere fact that they can't see all the necessary records you are supposed to keep. That's one. And the last one is when you have weak internal controls. And so, for instance, when we were investigating some of the issues like the TRICO, that did some of the payments, that moved some of the cash, they needed certain information. And they are not able to get some of these things. And to them, once you don't have enough internal control, because it's just to make sure that now, you know, in our law, he who alleges must prove. And so in our laws, it's a bit higher. If I come and say that Awa is guilty of this, or I'm charging Awa for this, Awa can remain silent. I have to prove everything
Beyond
reasonable doubt to get our convicted. Now, when they say you are corrupt, they can say that you are corrupt because you have weak internal controls. And that ends it. Our has to now prove that my internal controls are not weak. In fact, pay your threshold. I'm supposed to have this, have that, and I have everything. You understand? And so that is why I was saying that let's be careful how we move along with this. That law there, it hasn't, in fact, not even in Ghana, even in Germany, in most Western democracies, that law does not have a co-equal. It stands on its own. And if you read international law, they'll tell you that it is like it's like the standard that every country's corrupt laws want to aspire to. And so to that extent, it is high up there. And so it is not necessarily the case that once somebody is found guilty or an act is found there to be corrupt, it must necessarily be corrupt even in our local jurisdiction.
You wanted to come in, somehow.
Yes, the texter, when he said Akufo-Addo. No, he said Akufo-Addo said Chamawun to me.
The one on YouTube.
Yeah, that Chamawun to me was not engaged in Galamsey. Akufo-Addo was vindicated by the court records because the Deputy Attorney General in court said Wuntumi was not engaged in Galamsey. Today, Wuntumi is in jail not because he engaged in Galamsey, but because some people went onto his concession and engaged in Galamsey. That is why he's in jail today.
With his authorization.
Again, when you no authorization, because
no. Circumstantial evidence. The circumstantial evidence led to that.
But was he engaged in Galamsey? He was not engaged in Galamsey. So Akufo-Addo stand vindicated on this.
But the court said that he authorized without the authorization of the minister.
Yes.
So
that's what the court said.
That is why after 2029 a lot of the people will go to jail, because if indeed someone will go on your concession alone and engage in Galamsey, and the person is arrested doing it, and the person is turned into prosecution witness so that the owner of the place is jailed, a lot of people will go to jail, I'm telling you, after 2029. We'll take over. Again, when you look at the OSP, whether the prosecution is done by the Attorney General and so on, it was not even in doubt before Noah went to the Supreme Court. It was not in doubt that indeed the initiation and prosecution is under the office of the Attorney General. The OSP's Act, Section 4.2, clearly stipulates that he will really go and do prosecution, but under the authorization of the AG. The only thing that has changed after this Supreme Court ruling is that now it is clear that the Attorney General will be able to file nolle prosequi in cases that the OSP had initiated or is prosecuting. That is what essentially had changed. But you see, what we want to see is that let him start the process. Let him prosecute people. Let him get to the courts. If the state is not interested and they file nolle prosequi, the state, Ghanaians will understand. Then the state is obliged to tell us the reasons they are filing the nolle prosequi. But in the case of Yoko, if you give it to Yoko can even be dormant. They will not even.
So is that how you run down institutions when you're empowered?
No, but you see, the thing is that this is the first time the institution itself had been debased. The Yoko.
Wow.
Yes, because look at the individuals that held those offices and compared to this man who is doing a lot of talking, a lot of persecution in his office without giving any resource.
Is that fair to describe somebody who has just been appointed, especially when he's not here to defend himself?
But he's here to defend him because he's party member who has been sent there. We never put a partisan person at Yoko. We never put a partisan person at Yoko for the 8 years of administration.
But is it fair to describe him that way?
People who are investigators, who are independent investigators over there.
You think the government or the president just put him there because he's a member of the NDC and he doesn't have any knowledge at all to do anything there?
Compared to all those, that's a fair statement compared to those who had held that office in the last even 16 years, not 8 years. In the last 16 years, all those who had held that office are higher up than Raymond Acha.
Why would you make such a
case?
She was which Yoko started the investigation, but they never even gave her bail conditions. She only enters there and cooperates and leaves throughout. Even those who were even convicted, the NCA scandal, it is Yoko that started the investigation. ACP Adupoku, he started the investigation and they were convicted. But at no point in time were they held for even a day. Nobody in the entire 8 years of administration, nobody was held for a day at even Yoko because the person is under investigation. But look at the onerous bail conditions. If he is competent enough, why will he give someone 800 million bail condition? 800 million. If he's competent enough, 800 million, it has never happened in the history of this country that someone is giving 800 million bail conditions.
If your offense is in billions, why wouldn't they give, even if they give 800 million, that's even small.
Are you sure?
Yes.
So
yes,
someone just recently, someone went and had issues with Gold Board, $160,000, but it was given 100,000 Ghana cedis bail.
Do you know the facts there?
But you said that the quantum of the money should be able to give you higher.
Yeah,
and I'm telling you that.
You don't have, this is what you have.
Honorable Fatah, I'll come to you. But I want to ask you this question.
I was in court, a misdemeanor. She was charged 1 million. She was granted 1 million cedis.
I want to ask you this question.
No, I'm saying that a misdemeanor. I'm talking about what you're doing in this administration.
Mr. Awa Mohammed and Honorable Fatah, I'll come back to you again. You talk about nobody being held beyond 48 hours, but we saw that with Democracy Hub protesters.
What did they do? Unlawful assembly. And they were not held at Yoko. They were asked
beyond 48 hours. I think that's the question.
No, I'm saying that.
Of the
that was an excess on the part of the police, because the police arrested them here. They were coming to demonstrate at the seat of government.
So you condemn
and the police,
that?
Yeah, I condemn that. And the police asked them not to come there. They went and assembly around 37. They didn't come to the presidency. They were around 37. And the police arrested them for unlawful assembly. And I condemn the excess in that. But they were arrested lawfully because they went and assembled at a place that they were not supposed to assemble.
I want to come back to you. Your final word, really, on this moving forward and what you expect really be done. Because if you look at this trial of Beko, for instance, although the arrests were done years earlier and all of that, the entire trial itself, July, just took a few days, and the expectation of people is that at least when it comes to some of these cases, we are able to, as it were, expedite the process, just so people see the real result of prosecuting those who are found guilty.
Yes. Well, I've seen something published online recently saying that the Rules of Court Committee is coming up with new rules of courts, because that comes in relation to your question. A lot of times, and even in recent weeks and months, you see that we've been debating a lot about legal vacation, whether it is proper and all. It's because all of those are based on what we call the rules of court. So these are the rules that govern, say, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court. They each have their own. And it is those rules that allow trials to be a certain way. So, for example, if in the US you see that once a trial starts, it's like it's held every day till it's done. So even for criminal matters, when we talk about, oh, maybe Untumi was prosecuted in 6 months or 3 months. In our jurisdiction, when the trial starts within 5 days, it will be every day for 5 days. It will not be, oh, let's do 2 days today, adjourn for 1 month, like we have been doing. So we also have, so I'm hoping that the new rules of courts which are coming out will change some of the elements of trials. I mean, I remember one time I was handling a case, a labor matter, when the court calendar was so full that sometimes when we go to court, you do very little, the judge has to adjourn. The earliest day was 6 months at one point. Then another time was 8 months. Another time was almost a year. So essentially, there were 3 adjournments and we're in well over 2 years. Things like that. We are hoping that when the new rules of courts come out, it provides mechanisms for expediting trials and all of those things. Then we can have a situation where they can do investigations for years. When the prosecutors say they are ready, they charge you. Within a short time, the trial is done. And of course, providing time for accused persons to prepare their defense is all part of the process. Usually, in other jurisdictions, what will happen is that you'll be charged, bail will be considered, whether you're remanded or you'll be given bail, and then a trial date will be set way in advance so that you can do all the filings, the back and forth, the disclosures. But once the trial starts, within 1 week, usually it's done. It will be every day, not like how we have it where sometimes I need 2 days, I need 3 days, then you finish, you have to adjourn for months and all of that. So, absolutely what I'm expecting to happen now is that the OSP has come out clearly that's investigating. We also know that other state institutions are investigating. We expect that they will continue their respective investigations and they will share information and intelligence as required. At the end of the day, when we have enough basis to proceed to charge any of these persons under our laws, because as we've all made the point that our statute is different from what happens in the US and we need to be sure of the elements that are breached here, then some decision has to be taken about prosecution, which ultimately lies in the hands of the Attorney General unless the Constitution is amended, which we know that process also is supposed to be triggered soon. When that amendment happens, then obviously we can have the separation. But for now, every decision related to prosecution will lie ultimately at the Attorney General's doorstep, which means that the Attorney General can choose not to prosecute or how to prosecute and at the time to prosecute.
Evans Ibn Sambalora says, good morning, Beatrice. This OSP talks too much. That is not how to fight corruption. As for a while, he and his party are unaware that anything they say about corruption irritates Ghanaians. They should allow the country to run. We got tired of their empty presence in 8 years, the reason we sacked them and brought back JM. He must also stop their necessary interjections on the show. I want to get your final word on this, and then we'll get to the just one take on the new ministerial reshuffle, as it were.
Well, I think I have to commend the current administration on their approach to fighting corruption. I know that some have complained about the speed of some trials and all that. And as a litigation practitioner myself, I do know that there are times when the adjournments are a bit too long and some cases travel for years. There are other times too that there's a little bit too much pressure with certain cases, and sometimes they affect the health of lawyers. But we as practitioners should also realize that there are times when there are dormant lawyers in the firms. So I personally, there are some cases that I wouldn't want any other lawyer to handle, because I believe I've formed so much expertise in that particular case. And I think as practitioners, we should start taking another look at that. We should make sure that we bring all our colleagues along with various cases, because in the long run, if we have cases running on a day-to-day basis, it benefits all of us. Of course, when I'm a lawyer for an accused person, there are times when I may complain that this case is moving a bit too fast, I have other cases to do, but we must keep in mind that there are times when the shoe will be on the other foot. So let's support the efforts of the current administration. I think the passage of the Regional Tribunal Act will also go very far in making sure that cases move fast, and will be a check on we the citizenry. Because if you are not found, if you don't find yourself committing a wrongful act, or you don't find yourself in a company of people that you know will influence you to commit wrongful acts, then you don't have anything to be afraid of. And we also know that our justice system is such that the fact that you are charged to court does not mean you are guilty. There are many people who have been to court where the evidence has been said by many to be 100% supporting a conviction. But at the end of the day, we realize that that wasn't the case. So I don't think we have anything to be afraid of. Let's support the anti-corruption, because and in the long run, it leads to a lot of loss of life. Sometimes somebody takes millions of cedis. You think, oh, it's just a car, it's just a house. But that was the money for a hospital somewhere. And someone is dying somewhere because somebody wants to enjoy at another place.
Indeed.
But if we are all able to fight corruption by making sure that we do not encourage or engage in things that they say 3 degrees of separation, but when it comes to corruption, it can even be 1,000 degrees of separation. Your actions today will affect somebody in a village somewhere who doesn't have access to potable water because you wanted to drive a flashy car. So let's support the current administration and all future administrations in the fight against corruption.
And news just coming in, we're learning that the Appointments Committee will hold a public hearing today, August 27, 2026, at 9 a.m. at the Committee Room 1 and 2, New Administration Block, to consider His Excellency President Mahama's nominations for appointment. in view of this, okay, so in the course of our program, we'll be crossing over to bring the appointment committee's work to us. But briefly, let me bring this to us. And yes, I did mention that Felix Kwachofosu posted this on his social media account about the reassignment. And he said, I'll just read that brief statement he posted on his page. He said, President John Mahama has made the following changes to his government. Honorable Abdul Rashid Pelpo has been reassigned as Minister of State for Special Initiatives, while Honorable Emmanuel Kwejo Ejekum replaces him as Minister for Labour, Employment and Job Creation. The President has also reassigned Deputy Minister for Defence, Honorable Ernest Broja Jemfi, as a Presidential Advisor on Resilience and Emergency Preparedness. The reassignment take effect immediately. The question I'm asking is, what does this change mean for the government's performance? I want to start with you.
I think they are only bloating the government, that's all. Nothing more, nothing less, because now Broja is almost like a Minister of State because of the position that he is now. Almost a cabinet minister, because a presidential advisor takes emolument, salary and everything like a cabinet minister. But we're told that they are running a lean and effective government. It's lean by the name of ministers, but it is bloated with the number of people who are working at the presidency and taking salaries, emoluments and everything just like the ministers. I don't see anything this change will really bring, because in the last 1 year, 8 months, the country is not moving the right direction. The government cannot even talk about a single thing that they have successfully implemented. Now, if you look at the utility bills, it's higher than before. If you look at tomato today is sold at 10 cedis, and this is the long time it has been so for like 3 months now.
Wrap up for me, like 5 seconds.
So I don't see anything meaningful. The only thing is that they are only bloating the government.
Let me get your thoughts very briefly, 30 seconds. Lawyer Lija.
Well, I think last time we had this conversation here, I mentioned the fact that those two new appointments were good, welcome, but not enough, because there's a way in which we know, of course, that all ministers serve at the pleasure of the president. But at the end of the day, also, the government is looking to improve or get better. So it doesn't necessarily be the case that people are in the same spots where they may get too comfortable. We expect some changes so that it will drive better performance to even do and see more of what the current administration is up to.
How about you? 30 seconds.
Yes, I think that, and this I'll side with Awal, that on the fact that I think the president is leaning a bit out of his lean government agenda. As much as the reshuffles are good, I don't see the purpose of the presidential advisor on national resilience and emergency. So the president has been very good, very competent so far, somebody I look up to. But I think that if you are reshuffling, reshuffle, but don't find a position for somebody just because you don't want it to look like you are moving him from your government. So I think you should stay within his lean government.
Beatrice, I don't agree. That we are talking about Beatrice. In fact, none of them is even speaking to the fact that now the defense ministry has lost a deputy.
So someone will be...
So, no. So, but what we have now, the defense ministry does not have a deputy again. So that is one position taken away. So why are you talking about the creation of the advisory, the senior advisor?
Mr. Awa, we've run out of time. Please, just finish with your thoughts. We've run out of time. Please finish with your thoughts.
On the issue of the two, at least the employment, labor, and then the special initiative. But it is this is one reshuffle that when I look at it, then I really would want to agree that the president knows what is going on. You see, the man who is currently being moved to labor, if you look at what, I've had 3 of my constituents taken to Barbados in North America as specialist nurses. He has
under the program that was introduced.
Under his by Akufo-Addo. Yeah, the first batch was.
Ms. Awao, please, we've run out of time. Please finish, and then
just to put the record straight.
Ms. Awao, I think you've done this route. Just be fair
No.
to the rest of the panel members.
was built by
Honorable
Akufo-Addo.
Fatau, please finish with your
So
thoughts.
I am telling you that. In fact, I have followed the work of Ajikum, Honorable Ajikum Nkwanza. He's in Crawford, no, for South. In fact, he, in terms of this employment case, he's been doing very well. And Rashid Pepa has also been doing well. But if you look at this man, in terms of the nurses, in fact, there are some arrangement that about 6 of my constituents are currently always attending interviews. In fact, they've attended 2 interviews at the ministry is leaving now, the Special Education Ministry. And they are also being processed for other Trinidad and Tobago and other countries. And so the president says that this is a man who has a strength in this area, being able to get us some of these things. And so when you put him at the helm of affairs, at the labor and employment ministry, then it becomes like a fertile place to bring to bear some of these expertise.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Abdul Fattah Al-Hassan, Member of Parliament for END. Thank you very much for joining us for the conversation. Also to you as well, Mr. Lom Nuku Ahija, lawyer and law lecturer. Gimpa, thank you as well for joining us. Always, regular panel member, Mr. Kwame Nkrumah Bochu, private legal practitioner. Thank you for joining us. And also to you as well, Mr. Awao Mohammed, National Communications Team member for the MPP. I want to say a big thank you to Pamoni Clothing in East Legon for my costume today, and also to Surprise Salon for styling my hair as well for today. And cheers to a new day of amazing opportunities. Stop disinformation, misinformation. Access e-copies of Daily Graphic Business, The Mirror, Junior Graphic Sports and Graphic Showbiz on the go everywhere you are. Download the Graphic News Plus app and subscribe now. Enjoy a new day from Graphic. And let me just remind you that the nominees who are going to be considered for vetting, even as it starts today, include the Mr. Mahama Yariga, MP, and also Minister Designate, Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. We'll also be expecting Dr. Zaneto Ajiman Rawlings, MP, and Minister Designate, Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. Also, Justice Sophia Bema Essa, who is Justice of the Supreme Court, and Justice Edward Benasco. Okay, I didn't see that. And then Justice Edward Amwakwa Sante, Justice of the Supreme Court, and Mr. Anthony Faustin Jr., Justice of the Supreme Court. Let me remind you that we're giving out free cash today. So you want to dial *439#, you follow the prompt, you pick your favorite platform, which is number 2 right here on TV3. And the more you play, the more we are able to give you something for your pocket. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest in sport and some more.
Welcome back. This is Sports Now on TV3 Newday, and it's excitement here for us because in 9 days, the GPL is starting, and of course, we are fully in charge of it. And this morning, Mutala Yakubu is here with all the latest on that one. Akwaba.
Me also.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Everything
yourself?
okay?
Hey, I've seen that you're trending on social media.
Hey, the Ewe people and the Kusa people,
the
everybody's
Kusa
fighting.
people are fighting over you.
For ownership.
Everyone wants to claim ownership.
Yeah,
I mean, I never knew you. A lot of people knew you like that because somebody was actually describing you, your infant days and all that.
People really listen and people watch TV. People watch TV3 a great deal. So everything that I've said about where I come from, people have taken note. Yeah.
It's nice.
We'll continue in the comment section later. But tell us, what's happening with the GPL?
Within 9 days, the Ghana Premier League will kickstart the 2026-27 season. And as usual, I will be live on TV3 as we did last season. Just the ended GFA Congress, Keto Kreko, when he mounted the podium, said that he was extremely happy with the coverage that Adisa and TV3 gave the Ghana Premier League. He says that he gave the Ghana Premier League mileage and he gave them a lot of reach because people within the diaspora also got the opportunity of watching. Even the Minister for Sports and Recreation, Honorable Kofi Adams, also hit on that fact that they would want to continue that partnership with Adisa for years because it was a good one for them as the Ghana Premier League got a lot of reach, especially within people who are in the diaspora. So within 9 days, the Ghana Premier League will be back on TV3 and on your TV.
Every great football nation has a game it calls its own. Born in its towns, carried by its people. Here, the colors mean something. The badge means something. Because when your people step onto that pitch, it means something. And before the world knows their names, we do. Before the world celebrates them, we see them. Before they become the world stars, they are ours. Our talents, our rivalries, our heroes, our heartbreak, our stories. You can watch football from anywhere in the world, but there is only one game that comes from home. This is not somebody else's football. This is our football. Come home to the game.
Because we are number one when it comes to all of it, including sports. Be on the lookout for the GPL starting right here on TV3. All right, let's move on to other stories this morning. But please be on the lookout for this one because in no time we will be crossing over to the Appointments Committee for the vetting of new ministers and justices of the Supreme Court.
On some key national issues. Without much ado, let's listen to the veritable minority leader. I thank you. Leader.
Take care.
Charlie, I need some quiet behind. It's very important. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, fellow citizens of Ghana, we want to thank you, especially the media, for coming to listen to us on this short notice. We wish we did not have to call you this early, but tomorrow this house rises. And before it rises, the majority is plotting something that should alarm every Ghanaian who still believes in this constitution. We are here to tell you exactly what happened and exactly what the law says. On Monday, the Right Honorable Speaker referred 5 names to the Appointment Committee, 2 nominees for ministerial office, 3 nominees for the Supreme Court of Ghana. That referral came on the very first day of this house, of this emergency recall. The recall ends tomorrow, Friday. The majority now wants all 5 nominees vetted, reported on, and approved before the House rises. We say no, and we say it with the Constitution and our own standing orders in our hands. We say no because the people of Ghana must participate in the process. We say no because as minority, we are here to fight for the interests of the Ghanaian people. Our stance is not a partisan stand. It is a stand for the people of Ghana. What we would accept, my dear members of the media, on the 2 ministerial nominees, we are ready to engage. The Honorable Ayariga, Member of Parliament for Boko Central, has been nominated for local government, chieftaincy and religious affairs. Dr. Zaneto Ajiman Rawlings, Member of Parliament for Kole Klote, has been nominated for environment, science and technology. Article 78(1) of the Constitution gives Parliament the duty to approve ministers. We take that duty seriously. We will vet them fairly and within a sensible time. On these, we have a precedent. The precedent is, on a previous occasion, there was a proper motion, there was a waiver, and because they are for the purpose of governance, those ministries would need a political appointee to supervise and ensure government business goes on. We are not here to stampede that process. Therefore, we believe that because of their own standing in the House, we can take them today. Now, on the 3 nominees, our answer is firm and is in accordance with the NDC's own principal stand in 2024. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, for the records, in 2024, President Akufo-Addo brought 2 nominees. My respected colleague who was the acting chair, there was an advert that was placed in the papers and they were given 10 days within which to appear. The NDC led by Dr. Kasiel Atuforsen as minority leader, Honorable Kwame Agboja as minority chief whip, and the current majority leader, Honorable Mahama Ayariga, led the charge on behalf of the NDC. They opposed the vetting of the nominees. They physically prevented the vetting of the nominees. Their argument was that the 10 days was not enough, that the public must be given the opportunity to participate fully in the process. Therefore, we should suspend. Ladies and gentlemen, as Democrats as we are, then in majority, we listened to them and we suspended the vetting to allow for the 14 days minimum notice in the public space. Thereafter, they participated in the vetting. We listened to them. We engage. We believe that democracy thrives where parties are able to engage each other. That is what we did. Even after the process, they refused to participate in the final process of approval on the floor. We did not fight with them. Today, they are here claiming that just 3 days after announcement of nominees on the House floor, there must be vetting and approval. We do not accept. We see that the majority is trampling on the rules of the House. And we want the country to know the actual words of our own standing orders, because the majority has not been honest about them. The NDC majority has not been honest about the rules. Order 21711 requires appointment committee to report to Parliament within 3 days. But if you read that correctly, it does not mean 3 days after referral. So they are wrong if they insist that just 3 days after the referral, there must be vetting. They are wrong.
Eno ara na ye hwehwe odo ma woman eno ara ya odo ma woman eno ara na ye hwehwe odo ma woman eno ara ya.
Order 2674 tells us how long a committee normally has to report on any matter referred to it. And Order 2172 requires the chairperson, the ranking, and 2 other members of the relevant subject matter committee to join the appointment committee for every single nominee. Order 21710 requires nominees' names to be published so the public can send in memoranda. Order 265 set quorum at 1/3 of committee. Order 226 lets a committee decide to sit in public or in private and requires it to reconvene when business is not finished at one sitting. Our emphasis is on the requirement to publish the names of nominees for the public to send memoranda. Ladies and gentlemen, we, the NPP minority, would want to make it clear. We are not opposed to the nomination. We are not opposed to the nomination. We believe that it is the president's constitutional mandate to engage in that process. But let us quickly point out to one fact, that the NDC is an unprincipled political party. It does not believe in political principle. It is inconsistent and it acts out of political convenience. You may recall that in 2024, one of their arguments was that the nomination of 2 justices to the Supreme Court amounted to the packing of the courts. But since they came, if we add these 3 nominees to the already 7 they have nominated, which Parliament approved, it makes it 10. Does that also amount to the packing of the courts? We want the Ghanaian people to judge that our friends are never consistent, they are never principled, they only act out of political convenience and confuse the people of Ghana. We will not follow that path. We are principled. We believe that at the Supreme Court, the president has the mandate to nominate and go through the process of Judicial Council and Council of State. So we will not stampede the process, but we must point out that our friends don't believe in any principle. Now let us also point out that for these Supreme Court justices, there was no such proper motion even on the floor for the purposes of suspending our standing orders. There is no decision of the House resolving that these justices be vetted just within 3 days after the announcement was made to the members of Parliament and referral made to the committee. Now, proceeding to vet these nominees bring to the fore some dangers. We want to point them out. One danger is that a nominee may carry a permanent shadow over its legitimacy. Every ruling those 3 justices have ever made, every dispute that matters to this nation will be met by a question. Were you properly vetted? Were you installed in a hurry to suit one government convenience? That question will not go away. It will follow every judgment that they sign for the rest of their career. Again, the danger of a president that no future Ghana can undo. Let me point out that since 1992, all Supreme Court nominees have gone through the process of being properly vetted. Notice to the public have always met the minimum 2 weeks per our practice. This is the first time the NDC is using its supermajority to vet Supreme Court nominees in just 3 days after announcement. And we want to explain to the people of Ghana that deferring the nominees, deferring vetting would cost nothing, and the haste would cost everything. We must say it plainly because the country deserves plain speech. Deferring the vetting of these three nominees by few weeks harms no one. Yes, the courts are presently in vacation, but vacation is not closure. Where a matter is truly pressing, the Supreme Court sits during vacation and rules on the urgent question of law before it, exactly as our practice has always allowed. The administration of justice in this country has not come to a halt for a single day. No case that genuinely can not wait has been left to wait. There is no queue of litigants whose justice is delayed because these three have not yet taken the oath. Anyone who tells you Supreme Court have gone silent is asking you to believe a fiction. Now weigh that against what his costs. A justice confirmed in 4 days or 3 days without proper time for the public to raise concerns under Order 21710, without the subject committee members properly seated under Order 2172, carries that shadow onto the bench for the rest of a working life. That is not a cost this nation pays once. It is a cost we pay every single time that justice signs a judgment that shapes this country's future. The FERA also protect the nominees themselves. Justice Bernasco Esa, Justice Amwako Asante, and Mr. Tony Forson deserve a process that gives the appointment unquestioned legitimacy, not one that hands their critics, fairly or not, a talking point about how quickly they arrived on the bench. A nominee who is properly vetted enters that courtroom with the authority of a process the whole nation can respect. A nominee rushed through in 3 days enters carrying a question that mark no ruling can ever fully erase. If we truly believe these three are equal to the task, then we should want them vetted properly, precisely so that no one can ever say otherwise. And the deferral cost the majority nothing either, except the small inconvenience of doing this right. Nothing in our constitution or our standing orders penalizes a committee for taking time under Order 2674. 3 months is the ordinary rule. Nobody loses a single privilege of government by allowing this committee the weeks it needs. The only thing anyone loses is the political convenience of announcing 3 justices before this recall closes tomorrow. That convenience is not worth what it costs the country. This is why we say, respectfully but firmly, that responsible cause is not a rush. It is to defer. Let the committee take the time our own rules already allow. Let the public speak under Order 21710. Let the relevant committees be properly seated under Order 2172. Let these 3 nominees arrive on our highest bench, carrying the full, unquestioned legitimacy that only a proper process can give them. That is no obstruction by us. That is this House doing its constitutional duty. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, there is no vacancy and there is no emergency. We want to be very correct with an impression that has been allowed to take root because plain speech demands it. These 3 nominees are not filling vacancies on the Supreme Court. There is no vacancy on the bench today that without these nominees being approved, the court cannot be properly empaneled or constituted. The Supreme Court currently sits with its full complement of justices, hearing cases and handling down judgment as it should. What the President is proposing is not to urgently replace anyone who has left. It is to add 3 further justices to the members already sitting there. If there is no vacancy to fill, there is certainly no emergency compelling anyone to fill it inside for 3 days. Compare that with what happened only last year. Ghana lost ministers of state in a tragic helicopter crash in the Ashanti region. Those were real vacancies in real ministries at the heart of government. The President waited for 1 full year before naming replacement. 1 full year, if filling those 2 genuine ministerial vacancies that truly been an emergency, he would not have waited for that long. So we ask again, if a full year was acceptable for real vacancies in government, why is 3 days now being treated as an emergency for seats on the Supreme Court that are not even vacant? There is no fire here. Yes, this is the judicial vacation, but the administration of justice has not entirely come to a halt. Where it is absolutely necessary, the Supreme Court is sitting and deciding the questions of law that cannot wait. Nothing about our justice system is on life support because 3 additional justices have not yet joined the bench. Nobody should be made to believe otherwise. Still, we repeat our offer in good faith. We are ready to vet the 2 ministerial nominees fairly and promptly. We will not accept what we will not accept is the 3 Supreme Court nominees being rushed through as though the court cannot function another week without them. And ladies and gentlemen of the press, let me break something down. We are in the month of August. We have the whole of September. Committees can even work when the House is not sitting. So if the 2 weeks is dealt with, the committee can still come in September, somewhere in the 2nd week of September, and vet these nominees. We can get our reports done, and when Parliament resumes in October, still pass them or take a decision on them before the legal year begins. So why the rush? Again, we see the NDC part government breaking its own promise. When this government got into office in a commanding majority in this House, its own leaders stood before Ghana and promised restraint. They promised the country they would not abuse the numbers the people have given them. That promise did not survive long. It has been tested and broken again and again. Since this government took its seat, what the majority is pressing to do with these 3 Supreme Court nominations is not a new departure. It is simply the latest chapter in the broken promises. And it is a terrible culture that must end. It betrays the mandate of the Ghanaian people, a majority that keeps finding new ways to bend the rules to its convenience should not be surprised when the country stops believing its next promise of restraint. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the press, let me deal with the real emergencies which are sitting untouched. While the majority races to install 3 new justices in 3 days, 2 matters of genuine national emergency sit untouched, ignored, ready and waiting. This country is still waiting for answers on $1.6 billion in losses connected to Gold Board and Bank of Ghana. $1.7 billion. Let me take it again. This country is still waiting for answers on $1.7 billion in losses connected to Gold Board and Bank of Ghana, equivalent of 22 billion Ghana cedi losses. That is public money. That is the nation's money. A loss of that scale threatens the fiscal health of our economy, the strength of our currency, and the confidence of every Ghanaian who depends on sound banking system. If anything deserves the word emergency, it is a hazard of that size to our national purse. This country also lived through nationwide power outages that put lives at the risk and exposed our national security to real danger. Hospitals depend on the steady power. Security installations depend on steady power. Water systems depend on steady power. In one instance, it took our engineers several days, running one into the next, to restore power fully across the country. Those are emergencies in the truest sense of the word. A threat to our economy measured in billions of cedis. A threat to our security measured in days without power and in lives placed at risk. We are grateful that the Speaker admitted our motion on the loss of $2 billion for the consideration of this House. We commend him for that patriotic stance. But we must place something on record today, honestly and respectfully. The Speaker has, in his own wisdom, decided not to allow the motion to be moved during this special sitting. We have every serious reservations about that. A matter of this magnitude, a matter that touches the very integrity of our economy and our financial institutions, deserve to be heard without delay. However, we are patient. We will respect the Speaker and will respect the decision to take it when Parliament regularly resumes by October. However, what we see is the NDC's unprincipled position. Whilst they want our motion to wait, they are in a haste to vet ministers. We can't accept that. We see that the majority today is not ready to engage. All they want is their political convenience. Our call to the nation, to the Ghana Bar Association, to our retired justices, to the judiciary service, to the judicial service, to SHRAJ, to every professional body that cares about our courts. We want all of you to speak now. Tell the country whether 3 days is enough to vet 3 Supreme Court justices without putting out a public notice to allow the public to participate through a public memorandum. To civil society, our faith leaders, our chiefs, our queens, to every Ghanaian watching this broadcast, this is not the majority against the minority. This is whether we still believe our highest court deserves more care than 96 hours can give it. To the media, keep asking one question. Question the majority. What is the real emergency here? And to the majority, it is not too late to step back. Work with us on the 2 ministerial nominees, on a fair and sensible timetable, but abandon this plot to force through 3 Supreme Court vetting before tomorrow closes. And to our President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, we pray you kindly reach out to your members and let them know that everything they do, every misstep today goes against your legacy. You brought the nominations, the Speaker has read them out and referred to the committee. What did you do? You didn't ask the majority to do is to rush them through and stampede the process. As we have already said, committees of Parliament have onerous responsibilities. They serve as the fulcrum in the performance of the functions of Parliament. That is why it is said that Parliament is as strong as its committees make it. In that regard, nothing should be done to impede or stampede any committee in the performance of its functions. Mr. President, you have been a member of Parliament before. You have served on committees on Parliament. This is what your members are doing here. They are trying to use their supermajority to stampede the Committee of Parliament in the performance of its duties. Please call them to order. Again, as provided for under Article 1033, committees are charged with the responsibility of investigation and inquiry into the activities of MDAs, and in this case, into the performance of nominees to establish their qualification, eligibility, and suitability to occupy the office or position assigned to them respectively. This must be thorough, and it requires a thorough job. Mr. President, again, we plead with you, kindly engage your caucus. It is your nomination. Everything they do today stands for or against your legacy. We are not against the nominees. We are not against the decision by you to nominate justices to the Supreme Court. Although we are against the decision on the basis of your own principle, but we believe if the right thing is done, all of us can work together as Democrats, engage and get the right thing done. This is why, in the wisdom of our framers of the Constitution, these provisions were in the Constitution to allow Parliament, in its wisdom, to deal with all these things. In closing, it is our submission that if this plot goes ahead regardless, we will not treat it as an end of the matter. Every objection we raise this week goes into permanent record of this House, and if it becomes necessary, any Ghanaian, not only members of Parliament, has a right under the relevant provision of the Constitution to assert his rights. We did not choose this fight. It was brought to the doorstep of this Parliament and to the doorstep of the court itself by an unreasonable majority that does not want to reason with us, but to go with their supermajority and act out of political convenience. We are asking all Ghanaians to join us in bringing the majority to order. We rest our case. Thank you very much.
Homeland Ghana, and make our nation great and strong. To defend forever. Make us cherish fearless honesty and help this oppressors rule with all our will and might forevermore. And help us to raise this oppressors rule with all our will and might forevermore.
All right, we are very grateful. Bear with us. We can't take questions now. Subsequently, we'll have further engagement with you. We have to rush to the vetting venue. We are very grateful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Meanwhile, at the Appointments Committee, vetting is almost starting. Prayers have been offered already, and our man on ground, Christian Yale, is also ready to bring us the updates from the Appointments Committee. But Roland and Beatrice, we just watched that presser by the minority, and according to Apenyo Makin, who's the minority leader, he says that when it comes to the Supreme Court justices, there's nothing pending right now in the country, justice-wise or Supreme Court-wise, that's on life support, that forcibly they would have to, vet the 3 Supreme Court justices who are about to be added to the 7 to make it 10. And he's asking if that is not overcrowded. There's a particular word that he used, packing of the court, because that was the same song that the NDC sang a few years back. So it's in referral to most of the things that the NDC stood against, which they are now also, in a way, twisting the arm of the MPP to just easily see through, and the minority is not having it this morning.
Yeah. It was quite interesting, though, and he pinpoints that their position is premised on the fact that they believe the NDC is unprincipled, and also acknowledge that based on that level of unprincipled way by which they are behaving, he also links that to their standing orders, which also gives every indication there's no timeline or duration for you to either wait or not. For individuals who have been nominated for various positions, i.e., to the Supreme Court, any other organ of state, or even for ministerial positions to be appearing before the Appointments Committee of Parliament. Irrespective of that, they believe that based on those principles, the timeline should be extended.
At least for a week.
Yes. Or, is it a week?
That's what he said. He said at least they need a week.
So basically...
So he talked about 2 weeks and talked about a week, and even says that it could even be done some parts in September as well.
But basically, I mean, like Wiki said, it's just about what happened in our time and what you criticize
are doing now.
And what's happening now. But let's go to Christian Yale now, just before the Appointments Committee starts with its work. Chris, what more can you tell us?
Yeah, so what I know is that currently the majority leader, Mahama Yariga, or outgoing majority leader, Mahama Yariga, is before the Appointment Committee. Prayers have been said already, and so that activity is just beginning. The minority is saying that they are going to vet the two ministerial nominees, Mahama Ayariga as well as Dr. Zaneto Ajman-Rawlings, due to or based on their own standing in the House. They have no problem with that. What problem they have is what they see as the use of the majority numbers in this House to stampede the work of the appointment committee by not giving enough room for the appointment committee to do its work. They say that it is basically on the back of a simple principle that the NDC itself has held on to for years. And one of the judges nominated, Justice Sophia Essa, for instance, I know was vetted in the previous parliament, but they could not finish the approval process, and so and that was a nomination done by former President Akufo-Addo. Now there is even Amoakwa Asante, Justice Amoakwa Asante as well, who we know that the former Chief